Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the unforgiving world of the Mongol Empire, where the wind cuts through your clothes like a blade and survival depends on skills you've never even imagined needing. Picture yourself waking up on the vast steppes of Mongolia, your breath forming ice crystals in the frigid dawn air, knowing that one wrong move, one moment of weakness, and you're done for. Trust me, your cozy life hasn't prepared you for what's about to hit. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing our little bedtime history family spread across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first sensation that hits you isn't gentle. It's the bone-deep cold seeping through the felt walls of your family's ger, that circular dwelling you might know as a yurt. Your eyes snap open to darkness, but you can hear everything. The howling wind outside, the restless shuffling of horses nearby, and your father already moving about, preparing for another day of survival in the year 1220. You pull the heavy wool blanket tighter, a futile gesture against the pre-dawn chill that historians estimate regularly dropped to -40 degrees Fahrenheit in winter. But here's the thing about Mongol life that would break most modern people within hours. There's no snooze button in the steppes. When your father calls, you move, period. His word is law in this household, just as the Khan's word is law across the empire, and this divine order of authority keeps your world from descending into chaos. The wooden frame of your ger creaks ominously as another gust slams into it. These portable homes, which your family can disassemble and pack onto camels in under an hour, represent ingenious engineering that most historians still marvel at today. The lattice walls, covered in layers of felt made from sheep's wool, create a structure that's simultaneously sturdy enough to withstand gale force winds and light enough for nomadic life. Some scholars still debate whether the Mongols invented this design or adapted it from earlier steppe peoples, but nobody questions its effectiveness. Your mother is already up, of course. She's been awake for at least an hour, tending the central fire that must never die. In Mongol culture, women are the keepers of the hearth. Literally, that fire represents your family's life force, its connection to the eternal blue sky above, and letting it go out would bring shame that follows your bloodline for generations. She moves with practiced efficiency, her domain absolute, within these felt walls, preparing the morning meal while managing younger siblings who are just beginning to stir. You throw off your covers and immediately regret it. The cold hits like a physical blow, and you scramble for your del, that long robe that serves as your primary garment. Made from sheep's wool and lined with fur, it's designed to trap body heat while allowing freedom of movement for riding. You'll wear basically this same outfit for the next several months, maybe changing it twice a year if you're lucky. Those Instagram outfit of the day posts. Yeah, that's not happening here. Your little brother, only 5 years old, is already dressed and checking on the horses. This isn't cute childhood responsibility, it's survival training. Mongol boys begin riding before they can properly walk, and by his age, he's expected to contribute to the family's survival. Your sister, a few years younger than you, helps your mother with the complex task of processing milk into various forms that will sustain your family through the day. Everyone has a role ordained by tradition and necessity, and these roles aren't up for debate or modern reinterpretation. As you step outside the ger to answer nature's call, and trust me, squatting in -20 weather will make you appreciate indoor plumbing like never before, the full scope of your situation hits you. The steppes stretch endlessly in every direction, an ocean of frozen grass beneath an impossibly vast sky. Not a tree in sight, just rolling hills covered in frost that glitters like diamonds in the emerging dawn light. Beautiful? Sure. But that beauty masks a brutal reality. You're at least a week's ride from anything resembling civilization, and if something goes wrong, nobody's coming to save you. The breakfast your mother serves would make your stomach turn if you weren't already accustomed to it. The main course? Irag, fermented mare's milk that tastes like someone mixed yogurt with vinegar and added a kick of alcohol. It's slightly fizzy, definitely sour, and absolutely essential for survival on the steppes. Your father drinks deeply from his wooden bowl, the same one his father carved for him when he became a man, passing it to you with a nod that says more than words ever could. You take your sip, trying not to grimace. Modern nutritionists would be fascinated to know that this drink provides almost everything a human body needs. Proteins, fats, vitamins, and even a mild alcoholic content that helps preserve it and warm the body. Some historians argue whether the Mongols' lactose tolerance evolved specifically because of their dependence on dairy, or if their dairy-heavy diet emerged because they already had the genetic adaptation. Either way, you're stuck drinking it, and your survival depends on keeping it down. Your mother places a strip of dried mutton in front of you. Borts, they call it. Meat dried so thoroughly, it's basically protein jerky that can last for months without spoiling. The Mongols discovered that if you dry meat properly in the cold, dry air of the steppes, it becomes nearly indestructible. One fascinating tidbit that most people don't know: a single sheep properly processed into borts could sustain a warrior for an entire winter campaign. You gnaw on the leather-tough meat, your jaw already aching, while your father begins discussing the day's plans. The Western pastures, he says simply, and everyone understands. The animals need fresh grazing, which means your entire household, ger and all, will be moving today. Your mother nods, already mentally cataloguing everything that needs to be packed. This is her domain, and she runs it with an efficiency that would put modern CEOs to shame. Within her sphere of the household, her word carries the same weight as your father's does outside it. This isn't oppression. It's survival through specialized roles that have kept your people alive for countless generations. Your grandfather, ancient by steppe standards at 55, sits near the fire, telling your younger siblings about the old days. In Temujin's time, he begins, using Genghis Khan's birth name with the casual familiarity of someone who remembers when the great conqueror was just another clan chief. We didn't have such luxuries. He gestures at the iron pot your mother uses for cooking, plunder from some Chinese city, and launches into a story about boiling meat in clean sheep stomachs. The children listen with rapt attention, absorbing not just history, but the values embedded within it: endurance, resourcefulness, and absolute loyalty to family and Khan. The meal continues with dried cheese curds called arul, so hard you could probably use them as weapons in a pinch. These white chunks of concentrated dairy can last literally years without spoiling, making them perfect for nomadic life. You've heard traders joke that arul is harder than their wives' hearts when they've been away too long, though such humor is quickly silenced by a sharp look from the women preparing the meal. Mongol women might not ride to war, usually, but they command respect within their domain that no wise man challenges. As you force down your breakfast, your uncle arrives on horseback, dismounting with news from the neighboring clan. The Khan's brother returns from the west, he announces, accepting a bowl of irag from your mother. He brings word of strange lands where men worship a crucified god and build stone houses that reach toward heaven. Christianity has been trickling into the steppes for generations. Your own cousin married a Nestorian Christian last summer. But these tales of European crusaders fascinate and perplex your people. How can men who claim to serve a god of peace spend so much time at war? Your father and uncle begin discussing grazing rights, a conversation that would bore you to tears if it weren't literally life and death. Each family's animals need adequate pasture, but overgrazing destroys the land for everyone. The clans have developed an intricate system of rotation and negotiation, enforced by traditional laws that predate any written code. Historians still debate whether this system arose from environmental necessity or spiritual beliefs about man's relationship with the earth, but probably it's both. The Mongols might be famous for conquest, but their real genius lies in sustainable land management, something your modern world could definitely learn from. Your grandmother, bent with age but sharp as a blade, interjects occasionally from her place of honor. In Mongol society, elderly women hold special status, as keepers of genealogy and tradition. She can recite your family lineage back 9 generations, naming every marriage alliance and blood feud along the way. This oral history isn't just family pride, it's a legal document. When disputes arise over inheritance or marriage eligibility, her word carries more weight than any written contract. The conversation turns to your female cousin's upcoming wedding. She's 15, which by Mongol standards makes her practically an old maid. The negotiations have been complex, involving exchanges of horses, sheep, and promises of mutual defense between clans. Your modern sensibilities might bristle at arranged marriage, but here it's not about suppressing women. It's about survival through alliance. Your aunt has been intimately involved in every detail, ensuring her daughter enters a household where she'll be respected and her children will thrive. The bride price, which seems like purchasing a woman to modernize, actually serves as insurance that the signs of court.
As breakfast winds down, your mother begins organizing the day's labor. Your sisters will help process the wool from recent shearing, a skill that requires patience and expertise passed down through generations of women. Your brothers will assist with the herds, learning to read weather patterns and animal behavior with an accuracy that surpasses modern meteorology. Everyone knows their role, accepts it, and takes pride in executing it well. There's a deep peace in this certainty, this understanding that every person has a place ordained by heaven and tradition. Your father stands, the signal that breakfast is over and work begins. But first, he pours a small amount of arag onto the ground, an offering to the spirits of the land and the ancestors who watch over your family. This moment of reverence reminds you that for all their practical efficiency, the Mongols never forget the spiritual dimension of existence. Every action, from breaking camp to breaking bread, connects to a larger cosmic order that gives meaning to the harsh daily struggle for survival. The irony isn't lost on you. This primitive society has figured out sustainable living, gender complementary roles that actually work, and a legal system based on honor rather than lawyers. Maybe it's your soft, modern life that's actually the historical anomaly. But such philosophical musings will have to wait. There's work to be done, and in the Mongol Empire, everyone pulls their weight, or the whole system collapses. You drain the last of your arag, trying not to think about what your friends back home are having for breakfast, and prepare to face another day in the most efficient society the medieval world has ever produced. Your earliest memory involves falling off a horse. You were 3, maybe 4, and your father had placed you on a gentle mare while he held the lead. The ground rushed up to meet you with stunning finality, knocking the wind from your lungs and bringing tears to your eyes. But here's what didn't happen. Nobody rushed to comfort you. Your mother watched from the Gur entrance, her face carefully neutral. Your father simply waited. After what felt like eternity, you struggled to your feet, and he lifted you back onto the horse without a word. This wasn't cruelty. This was love, Mongol style. Now, watching your 5-year-old brother prepare his pony for the day's journey, you understand the wisdom in that harsh lesson. The boy moves with confidence, born from countless hours in the saddle, checking the girth, adjusting the stirrups his father crafted specifically for his small frame. By his age, you could already shoot a bow from horseback. Not well, mind you, but well enough to hit a stationary target at 20 paces. Your brother will soon begin that training too, following the path laid out by generations of warriors before him. The horses themselves deserve mention. These sturdy little creatures that look nothing like the magnificent destriers European knights pride themselves on riding. Mongol horses stand maybe 13 hands high, ponies by modern standards, with thick coats, robust bodies, and an almost supernatural endurance. Historians still argue whether these horses represent a distinct breed developed by the Mongols, or simply the result of natural selection on the steppes. What's beyond debate is their incredible toughness. Your family's horses can survive on sparse grass that would starve a European warhorse, endure temperatures that would kill Arabian thoroughbreds, and travel distances that would cripple any other mount.
Your father approaches leading his favorite stallion, a bay gelding with a white blaze that he captured wild 2 summers ago. The relationship between a Mongol man and his primary mount transcends simple ownership. It's a partnership ordained by necessity and cemented by mutual respect. He's trained 5 different horses for various purposes. This one for speed, another for endurance, one for night riding, one for battle, and a steady mare for when he needs to shoot accurately from the saddle. You'll need to develop the same string of mounts if you hope to survive to adulthood. Today you learn the whistling arrows, your father announces, producing a quiver filled with specialized arrows that have hollow bone tips. When fired, these create an eerie whistling sound that serves multiple purposes. Signaling during hunts, communicating across vast distances during battle, and most importantly, teaching young archers about wind resistance and trajectory. It's the kind of practical genius that characterizes Mongol innovation: simple, effective, and serving multiple functions. Your sister, 2 years younger but already an accomplished rider herself, leads out the sheep that will travel with your family. While she won't train for war like her brothers, her riding skills are no less critical. Mongol women must be capable of managing herds, fleeing from danger, and maintaining the household even while in motion. Some Western historians express surprise at the freedom of movement Mongol women enjoyed compared to their sedentary counterparts, but miss the crucial point. This isn't about progressive values, it's about survival. A woman who can't ride is a liability the clan can't afford. The training begins with your father demonstrating the proper mounting technique, always from the left side, a tradition so ancient nobody remembers its origin. Though some scholars speculate it relates to keeping one's weapon hand free. You swing up into the saddle, the familiar leather creaking beneath you, and immediately feel the difference between riding for transportation and riding for war. Your father has adjusted your posture, shortened your stirrups to the point where you're almost standing, creating the stable platform necessary for accurate archery. The horse is your legs, the bow is your arm, he recites, echoing words his own father told him. But your mind must unite them into one creature. This isn't mystical nonsense. It's practical biomechanics expressed in spiritual language. Modern sports scientists would recognize the principle of proprioception he's describing, the need for your body to unconsciously adjust to the horse's movement, while your conscious mind focuses on aiming. But your father doesn't need scientific terminology to understand what works. Your youngest uncle rides up to join the lesson, barely 18, but already a veteran of 3 campaigns. He carries the scars to prove it. A pink line across his jaw from a Chinese crossbow bolt, a twisted left shoulder from a fall during a raid. In settled societies, such injuries might end a warrior's career. Here, they're simply the price of manhood, worn with neither shame nor excessive pride. He'll help train you and your brothers, passing on techniques learned not in some formal military academy, but in the ultimate school. Survival against enemies who wanted him dead. The morning progresses through endless repetition. Draw, aim, release. Draw, aim, release. Your arms burn. Your fingers bleed where the bowstring cuts into them, and your thighs scream from maintaining position in the shortened stirrups. Your 8-year-old brother practices alongside you, using a smaller bow suited to his strength. There's no participation trophy here, no adjusted standards for age. Either you can hit the target, or you can't. And if you can't, you keep practicing until you can, or you die in your first real battle. Your mother calls out from where she's supervising the packing of the ger. The sun climbs, we move within the hour. This is how Mongol women exercise authority, not through formal titles or feminist theory, but through practical necessity. Someone needs to ensure the household moves efficiently, and that someone is always the senior woman. Your father immediately shifts the training to mounted exercises, knowing that your mother's timeline isn't a suggestion, but a statement of fact. In the time of the Great Gathering, your grandfather interjects, referring to when Genghis Khan first united the tribes. Boys younger than your brother there rode against the Naimans. He spits to the side,
the gesture conveying his opinion of that defeated tribe. They died well, though, faced their fate like men, not like those Tangut cowards who try to buy their lives with gold. This casual brutality in discussing child soldiers would horrify modern sensibilities. But here, it's simply history. Boys become men through trials, and some trials are fatal. You notice your sister watching the archery practice with intense focus. She'll never ride to war, but Mongol women must be capable of defending the camp when men are away raiding. Your aunt is teaching her to shoot from the ground, a different but equally vital skill. The recurved bow requires less strength than a European longbow, but more technique, making it ideal for women's defense. Some tribes, historians note with continuing fascination, included female warriors in their ranks, though your own clan follows the more traditional division of martial duties. As the lesson continues, your muscles' memory begins to develop. The bow becomes an extension of your will, the horse an expansion of your body. This is what separates Mongol warriors from their enemies, not superior technology or numbers, but the integration of human, horse, and weapon into a single fighting system. European knights train for individual glory, Chinese soldiers for formation fighting, but Mongols train for something else entirely. Fluid, adaptive warfare, where every warrior can function independently while serving the greater tactical plan. Your father nods approval as one of your arrows strikes near the target's center. Better, but in battle, near means your enemy lives to strike back. He doesn't coddle or praise excessively. That's not the Mongol way. A father's job is to prepare his sons for a world that offers no second chances, where masculine strength and skill stand between the family and destruction. Your mother will teach compassion and manage the household's inner workings, but your father must forge warriors capable of protecting what matters most. The morning's training draws to a close as your family prepares for the move to new pastures. You're exhausted, bruised, and nowhere near proficient enough to survive real combat. But you're one day closer to becoming what your bloodline demands. A warrior worthy of your ancestors, a protector of your clan, a son who brings honor rather than shame to your father's name. In the Mongol Empire, childhood isn't a protected state of innocence. It's apprenticeship for survival in the harshest meritocracy the world has ever known. The gear comes down with practiced precision, your mother directing operations like a general commanding troops. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Every family member knows their role in this ancient choreography, passed down through generations of women who've made homes from felt and wood across the endless steppes. Your sisters carefully roll the felt walls, treating them with the reverence due to the materials that keep your family alive. Your brothers help your father disassemble the wooden lattice frame, each piece numbered with carved notches that ensure perfect reassembly. You're assigned to pack the altar, the sacred corner where your family's protective spirits reside. The small wooden chest contains items whose significance transcends their humble appearance. A piece of wolf fur from your grandfather's first hunt, a bronze mirror your grandmother brought to her marriage, dried juniper for purification ceremonies. These aren't superstitious trinkets, but tangible connections to the spiritual forces that guide and guard your bloodline. Your mother watches approvingly as you wrap each item in felt, a presence ensuring you handle these treasures with proper reverence. When I came to your father's clan, your mother says, working beside you, I brought 3 things: my dowry chest, my cooking pot, and the knowledge of 6 generations of women. She pauses in her packing to ensure you're listening. Gold can be stolen, animals can die, but knowledge passed from mother to daughter endures forever. This is how Mongol women exercise their authority, not through public proclamation, but through the careful preservation and transmission of essential wisdom. Your aunt arrives with her family, their gear already packed onto camels. The cooperation between related households isn't just convenient, it's commanded by both practical necessity and divine order. Families that support each other prosper, those that fragment perish. Your male cousins immediately join your brothers in loading the heavier items, while your female cousins assist with organizing the household goods.
Everyone understands that this gendered division of labor isn't arbitrary, but refined by centuries of experience into the most efficient system possible. The loading process reveals the genius of Mongol material culture. Everything your family owns serves multiple purposes and packs efficiently. The wooden chests that store clothing also function as furniture. The iron cooking pot doubles as a defensive weapon in desperate circumstances. Even the gur poles can become lances if needed. Some historians attribute Mongol military success to their superior tactics or horsemanship. But the real advantage might be this radical efficiency, an entire household that can transform into a mobile military unit within an hour.
Your grandmother supervises from atop her gentle mare, her advanced age granting her the privilege of riding while others work. But don't mistake this for mere rest. She's performing the crucial task of maintaining the family's oral archives. As the younger women work, she recites the lineages of horses, the boundaries of traditional grazing grounds, the debts and alliances that bind your clan to others. Your mother and aunts repeat key passages, ensuring nothing is lost. In societies without writing, elderly women become living libraries, their memories more precious than any written document. The Chinese keep their histories in books. Your grandmother observes with gentle disdain. But fire destroys books, water ruins them, and enemies can steal them. Our histories live here. She taps her temple. Passed from grandmother to granddaughter, since before the earth knew the tread of foreign boots. There's profound wisdom in this approach. What scholars call oral tradition isn't just primitive record keeping, but a system that ensures every generation actively engages with their heritage, rather than passively inheriting dusty volumes. Your father and uncles discuss the route to the new pastures, a conversation that seems casual but carries life or death implications. They must consider grass quality, water availability, weather patterns, and potential raids from hostile clans. But notice who makes the final decision about when to depart. Your mother, after consulting with the other senior women about whether the households are ready. This complementary authority, men deciding where to go, women determining when, creates a balanced leadership that modern egalitarian theories struggle to improve upon. The packing continues with items that would seem strange to settled peoples. Dried dung for fuel, carefully selected for optimal burning. Strips of leather for emergency repairs. A collection of stones from various sacred sites, each carrying protective power for specific purposes. Your little sister packs her own small bundle, learning responsibility through practice rather than lecture. Even at 6, she understands that every family member must contribute according to their ability. Your mother calls you over to help with the most important task, securing the milk vessels. In a dairy-based economy, these containers are essentially your family's bank account. The leather bags for fermenting airag, the wooden buckets for fresh milk, the special pouches for making cheese. Damage any of these, and your family's nutrition suffers immediately. She shows you how to check the seams, test the bindings, ensure everything remains watertight. Men may bring home glory from battle, she says quietly, but women ensure there's a home to return to. As the gur frame is loaded onto the camels, you notice the intricate system of marks carved into each piece. Your uncle explains that these aren't just assembly instructions, but a form of property marking that prevents disputes when multiple families camp together. Some marks are ancient, carved by ancestors whose names are still remembered in your grandmother's recitations. Others are fresh, added as pieces were replaced or repaired. It's a living document of your family's history, written in the universal language of survival. The final items loaded are the weapons. Your father personally oversees this, checking each bow, each quiver, each lance. In Mongol society, weapons aren't just tools of war, but symbols of masculine responsibility. A man who can't maintain his weapons can't protect his family, and a man who can't protect his family isn't truly a man. Your younger brothers watch intently
as he demonstrates proper wrapping techniques that keep bowstrings dry and metal parts from rusting. "In my grandfather's time," your father says, securing his own legendary bow, a composite masterpiece of horn, sinew, and wood that can drive an arrow through armor at 200 paces. The Keriot tribe grew lazy. Their men let servants maintain their weapons. Their women forgot the old ways of packing efficiently. When Genghis Khan came for them, they couldn't flee fast enough, couldn't fight effectively. The spirits of the blue sky don't protect those who abandon discipline. Your family's convoy forms up, a precise order established by tradition. Your father and eldest brother ride point, scouting for danger. The women and children follow with the loaded animals. Your uncle and male cousins guard the rear, your position with the herds, responsible for keeping the sheep and goats moving while watching for stragglers. It's not glorious work, but it's essential. Lose animals to wolves or wandering, and your family goes hungry. The shaman arrives at sunset, his approach announced by the rattling of bones and metal trinkets hanging from his deal. Your family has made camp for the night, the gers erected in their protective circle, and word of his presence ripples through the gathered clans like wind through grass. This isn't some wandering charlatan, but Korchi, keeper of the eastern winds, whose lineage of spiritual authority stretches back to before Genghis Khan united the tribes. Your father dismounts immediately, showing the deference due to one who speaks with the eternal blue sky. You've heard the Christians among the trade caravans mock your people's spiritual practices, calling them primitive superstitions. But as Korchi enters your family's ger, accepting the place of honor your mother has prepared, you sense something those foreign priests miss. A connection between heaven and earth that doesn't require stone churches or written scriptures. The shaman's weathered face reflects decades of fasting, vision quests, and battles against the dark spirits that plague humanity. His presence fills the ger with an authority that transcends earthly power. The Khan summons the clans, Korchi announces, after accepting the ceremonial bowl of Erag. Heaven has spoken through the sacred mountains. Tengri, the eternal blue sky, grants Temujin. He uses Genghis Khan's birth name with the familiarity of one who knew him before his rise. Divine mandate to unite all who live beneath the sun and moon. Your father and uncles exchange meaningful glances. This isn't just political news, but cosmic confirmation that the order they fought to establish carries heaven's blessing. Your mother brings forward your youngest brother, just recovered from a wasting fever that nearly claimed him last moon. Korchi examines the boy with eyes that seem to see beyond flesh, then produces a small leather pouch from his robes. Blue silk from the Chinese, wolf hair from the sacred mountain, and juniper blessed at the source of the Onon River, he explains, tying the talisman around your brother's neck. But these things hold power only because your family honors the ancient ways. Heaven protects those who maintain proper order. The shaman's attention turns to you and your siblings, lined up according to age and gender as tradition demands. He studies each of you with an intensity that makes your skin prickle. This one, he points to your sister, carries the gift of dreams. Train her well in the women's mysteries, for she will guide her children through dark times. To your brother, warrior's hands, but a shepherd's heart. Both will serve the Khan's purpose. When he reaches you, his pause stretches uncomfortably long. The spirits show me two paths for this one. Choose carefully when the moment comes. Your grandmother steps forward, offering a bolt of silk, precious beyond measure on the steps, as payment for the shaman's services, but Korchi waves it away. Your family paid my fee 3 generations ago, when your great-grandfather saved my master from Chinese assassins. Heaven remembers such debts. This interaction illuminates something crucial about Mongol society. Relationships and obligations transcend individual lifetimes, binding families in networks of reciprocal duty that no amount of modern contractual law could replicate. Tell us of the Khan's vision, your father requests, and the shaman settles into teaching mode. The entire family gathers close, from your ancient great-aunt to your youngest cousins,
Because in Mongol culture, spiritual education isn't segregated by age or status. Everyone needs to understand their place in heaven's plan. Before the tribes were scattered, before the first ger was raised, Tengri looked down upon the earth and saw chaos, Korchi begins, his voice taking on the rhythmic cadence of ancient telling. So the eternal blue sky breathed order into existence, man to lead and protect, woman to nurture and preserve, children to honor both and continue the sacred pattern. But humans forgot this divine arrangement, and chaos returned. Wars between brothers, children abandoning parents, women and men trying to exchange their ordained roles. The very earth groaned under such disorder. Your mother nods along, her lips moving in silent repetition of this foundational story. She's heard it countless times, but never tires of its truth. Your sisters lean forward, absorbing every word, understanding that their future authority as wives and mothers depends on maintaining this cosmic balance. Your brothers sit straighter, grasping that their masculine duties extend beyond mere strength to upholding heaven's design for human society. Then Tengri chose Temujin, the shaman continues, born clutching a blood clot, marked from birth as one who would restore proper order. But first, he had to learn suffering. His father murdered by treachery, his family cast out to starve on the steppes, his young wife stolen by enemies. Here Korchi pauses, letting the weight of these trials sink in. Lesser men would have broken, but Temujin understood that heaven tests most severely those chosen for greatest purpose. Your uncle interrupts respectfully. Some say the Khan has abandoned the old ways, adopting Chinese writing and Muslim counting. How do we reconcile this with heaven's mandate? The shaman's eyes glitter with something between amusement and approval. Does the eagle refuse to hunt rabbits because it usually takes marmots? Wisdom means adopting what strengthens while maintaining what matters. The Khan uses foreign tools but keeps Mongol hearts. His generals study Chinese siegecraft but command through the sacred decimal system. His scribes record laws in foreign scripts, but the laws themselves flow from our ancient traditions. This explanation satisfies your uncle, but you sense deeper currents here. Historians still debate whether Genghis Khan was a pragmatic political genius or a genuine religious visionary. Listening to Korchi, you understand it's both. Practical leadership, guided by sincere belief in divine mission. The Khan's religious tolerance isn't modern pluralism, but confident supremacy. When you know heaven has chosen your people, you can afford to let others worship as they please. But divine mandate requires human cooperation, Korchi warns, his tone shifting darker. Already, some clans grow soft with plunder. Sons forget the hardships that forged their fathers. Daughters seek to command rather than influence. When a people abandon heaven's order, heaven abandons that people. He produces a sheep's shoulder blade, scorched and cracked in specific patterns. The bones speak of tests ahead. Those families that maintain proper structure will survive. Those that don't. He doesn't finish, but everyone understands. Your father asks about specific spiritual practices for the coming season, and Korchi provides detailed instructions. Which directions to face during morning prayers, how to properly honor the spirits of new pastures. The timing for your brother's manhood ceremony. These aren't empty rituals, but technologies of survival, encoding practical wisdom in memorable forms. When Korchi insists that women must maintain the hearth fire while men perform the dawn offerings, he's not imposing arbitrary gender roles, but preserving a system that has sustained your people through countless generations. As the evening deepens, Korchi shares more esoteric knowledge. He speaks of the spirit world that parallels our own, where ancestors watch their descendants' choices with approval or dismay. He describes the dark spirits that prey on human weakness, spirits of laziness, cowardice, and disorder that can destroy a family faster than any external enemy. Your little sister shivers and presses closer to your mother, who wraps a protective arm around her. while whispering traditional words of warding. Remember, Korchi concludes, rising to leave. Tengri doesn't demand perfection, only sincere effort to maintain proper order. A man who fails protecting his family but dies trying earns more heavenly merit than one who succeeds through cowardice. A woman who struggles to manage her household but perseveres gains more spiritual power than one who abandons her duties for easier paths. He looks directly at you. And young ones who honor their parents and prepare for their ordained roles store up blessings for generations yet unborn. After the shaman departs, your family sits in contemplative silence. Your father finally speaks. Tomorrow we reach the gathering. You'll see thousands of Gurs, warriors from every clan, the Khan himself perhaps. But remember Korchi's words. Power without heaven's blessing becomes destruction. Order without divine guidance becomes tyranny. We serve the Khan because the Khan serves Tengri's purpose. Your mother adds her own wisdom. And within the Gur, remember that my authority comes from the same source, not from human ideas about fairness or equality, but from heaven's design for how families thrive. She looks at each daughter in turn. You'll hear foreign women speak of different ways. Smile, be courteous, but hold fast to what you know is true. The screaming starts before dawn. Not the sounds of battle or death, but celebration. Ululating cries from the women's gears, announcing that young Batbaya has successfully stolen his bride. You bolt upright from your sleeping furs, instantly alert, as the ancient tradition unfolds in the blue-grey darkness outside. Your mother is already moving, lighting the fire with practiced efficiency, while your father checks his weapons. Not for violence. Bride stealing, when done properly, is choreographed theatre, but because tradition demands that a stolen bride's family show token resistance. Dress quickly, your mother commands, her voice carrying mixed notes of excitement and authority. We must be ready when they bring Oyunar past our gare. Your sister needs no further explanation, immediately beginning to prepare the traditional foods that comfort a newly stolen bride. This is women's business, the sacred duty of establishing the emotional foundation that will transform a frightened girl into a confident wife and mother. You stumble outside into organized chaos. Torches blaze throughout the camp as riders gallop between gares, shouting the news. Young Batbaya, son of the Western clan's war chief, has taken Oyunar, daughter of your father's cousin. The match has been negotiated for months. Dowries agreed upon, bloodlines verified, astronomical charts consulted. But the stealing itself must appear spontaneous, passionate, divinely inspired. It's a paradox that would confuse outsiders. A carefully planned kidnapping that everyone expects but must pretend surprises them. Your uncle rides up, grinning beneath his fox fur hat. The boy showed proper form, waited until her brothers were distracted at dice, swept in on his fastest horse, grabbed her from beside her mother's loom. She screamed beautifully. Her family trained her well. This might sound barbaric to modern ears, but you understand the deeper wisdom. A woman who is stolen is desired, fought for, valued. A man who risks the mock wrath of her family proves his courage and commitment. The entire ritual reinforces that marriage isn't casual choice, but serious undertaking worthy of drama and difficulty. Historians still debate whether bride stealing among the Mongols was ever truly non-consensual or always this elaborate performance. Listening to your grandmother cackle with delight as she describes how your grandfather stole her 60 years ago, he was so nervous he almost dropped me. My father had to pretend not to notice him circling our gare for 3 nights. You understand it's probably always been both. Real abductions happened, certainly, but the ritualized version serves to transform potential violence into binding ceremony. Procession approaches, and you see Ayuna playing her part perfectly. She struggles against Batbaya's gentle but firm grip, wailing about her poor mother, her abandoned duties, the shame of being stolen. But watch her eyes. They shine with triumph, not fear. She spent years preparing for this moment, learning from her mother and aunts how to resist just enough to honor tradition without actually escaping. Her struggles prove her virtue while his persistence demonstrates his determination. Your mother steps forward as they pass, offering the traditional challenge. Who dares steal a daughter of the clans? Batbaya responds with the ancient formula, one chosen by heaven to protect and cherish her. The exchange continues through several more ceremonial challenges and responses, each reinforcing the sacred nature of what's happening. This isn't mere property transfer, but cosmic realignment. Two individuals accepting their divinely ordained roles as husband and wife. In my mother's time, your grandmother explains to your younger cousins, a stolen bride who didn't struggle enough brought shame on her family. Too little resistance suggested eagerness, improper for a virtuous woman. Too much suggested rejection of heaven's plan. Finding the balance required real skill. She chuckles, remembering. Your aunt fought so convincingly that she bloodied her husband's nose. The scar became his favorite, proof of her spirit. The procession continues toward Batbaya's family ger, where his mother waits with the sacred items that will transform Oyuna from daughter to wife. Your family joins the following crowd, everyone understanding their role in this ancient drama. The men discuss whether Batbaya's horse handling showed proper warrior prowess. The women evaluate whether Oyuna's cries hit the correct emotional notes. The children absorb every detail, preparing for their own future performances. Your father walks beside you, using this moment for teaching. See how Batbaya's brothers ride protective formation? They guard against any actual interference, while allowing the ceremonial challenges. This is how men support each other, not through empty words but through presence and readiness. He points to where Oyuna's brothers follow at a careful distance. And see, they pursue just enough to show family honor, but not so close as to force real confrontation. Everyone knows their part. The theological implications run deeper than mere custom. In the Mongol understanding, marriage replicates heaven's fundamental order. Just as Tengri, the eternal blue sky, covers and protects Etigen, the Earth Mother, so must husbands shelter wives. Just as Earth responds to sky's protection with fertility and abundance, wives support husbands through creation and nurture. Bride stealing dramatizes this cosmic truth. Man as active pursuer, woman as precious prize worthy of pursuit. You reach Batbaya's family ger as dawn breaks properly, painting the steps in shades of gold and rose. His mother emerges, tall and dignified, carrying the headdress that will mark Oyuna's new status. This is the crucial moment. If the bride's struggles continue beyond this point, it signals real unwillingness and the marriage cannot proceed. But Oyuna, seeing her mother-in-law's welcoming face, allows her cries to fade into ceremonial whimpers. Daughter, Batbaya's mother speaks loud enough for all to hear. Why do you weep? Have we not prepared a place for you? Have we not offered fair bride price to your family? Has my son not proven his courage by taking you, despite all obstacles? Each question follows ancient formula, giving Oyuna opportunity to voice any real objections, while guiding her toward acceptance. Oyuna responds through artistic sniffles. I weep for my mother's ger, for my sister's company, for the rivers and pastures of my childhood. Perfect answer, acknowledging loss while implying acceptance. Batbaya's mother nods approval and places the headdress on Oyuna's head. The transformation is instant and profound. No longer a stolen girl, but an honored wife. She straightens her shoulders and allows Batbaya to lead her into her new home. Your mother sighs contentedly beside you. Well done on all sides. Her family showed proper protectiveness, his showed appropriate determination, and the young ones themselves played their parts with honor. When it's done right, bride stealing binds not just two people, but two clans. She looks meaningfully at your sister.
Remember this when your time comes. The fear you show honors your parents' protection. The acceptance you demonstrate honors heaven's plan. Inside the ger, the women's ceremony begins. Batbaya's female relatives will spend hours teaching Oyuna the specific traditions of her new clan, how they season their meat, when they move camps, which spirits they particularly honor. Your mother and other married women from Oyuna's birth clan will participate too, ensuring continuity of essential knowledge. Men are strictly excluded from this sacred transmission of feminine wisdom. Meanwhile, the men gather for their own rituals. Batbaya must prove he can provide for his stolen bride by demonstrating his wealth in horses, his skill with weapons, his knowledge of pastures and weather. Your father and other senior men interrogate him about clan history, grazing rights, battle tactics. This isn't hazing, but final verification that he's ready for the responsibilities marriage brings. A man who can't answer these questions has no business taking a wife. Foreign merchants think we're barbarians for stealing brides, your uncle comments, passing around Iraq as the sun climbs higher. But their arranged marriages are just stealing without the honesty. At least we acknowledge what's happening. A woman leaving her birth family requires drama, tears, reconciliation. Their cold contracts pretend it's mere business transaction. Your brother, recently returned from trading in Chinese territories, adds perspective. In their cities, I saw marriages made for money alone. No ritual, no community involvement, no cosmic significance. Just papers signed and property exchanged. Then they wonder why their families fracture like ice in spring. The other men grunt agreement, reinforcing your clan's conviction that traditional ways surpass foreign innovations. As the day progresses, the separate ceremonies conclude and the reconciliation begins. Oyunar's brothers arrive with symbolic demands for compensation. 3 horses for their sister's tears, 2 sheep for their mother's sorrow, a decorated saddle for the disruption to their household. Batbaya's family responds with countergifts exceeding these demands, demonstrating that they value their new daughter-in-law above mere material wealth. The blood mingles in the silver bowl, yours and Temuj's, swirling together in patterns that seem to hold meaning beyond mere liquid. Your hands shake slightly as you lift the bowl to your lips, not from fear, but from the profound weight of what you're undertaking. This isn't just friendship you're sealing, but anda, blood brotherhood, a bond that transcends even family ties in its sacred obligations. Temuji drinks after you, his face solemn with the same understanding. From this moment forward, you are more than friends, more than clan allies. You are one soul in 2 bodies, bound by oaths that heaven itself witnesses. Your fathers stand as witnesses, their approval necessary for this covenant. Temuji's father, a war chief who lost his left eye fighting the Merkits, speaks first. I lost 2 sons to winter sickness before Temuji was born. Heaven gave me one final heir, and now I gain another through this sacred bond. His remaining eye fixes on you with intensity that makes you straighten your spine. You accept not just my son, but our family's honor, our feuds, our obligations. His enemies become your enemies. His children will call you uncle. His widow, should he fall, becomes your responsibility. Your own father responds with equal gravity. And my son's tent becomes refuge for yours. My family's horses run with his in times of need. The paths our ancestors traveled belong to both clans now. He pauses, letting the weight settle. This is why anda bonds require such consideration. Marriage alliances can be broken, political agreements renegotiated, but blood brotherhood endures until the Sky Father calls you both home. The shaman presiding over the ceremony, not Korchi, but his apprentice, a young woman whose gift manifested through prophetic dreams, adds spiritual confirmation. The spirits show approval. These 2 shall support each other like the 2 poles that hold up a ger. When one weakens, the other strengthens. This is heaven's design for brotherhood. She sprinkles blessed water over both your heads, sealing what blood and oaths have begun. Historians often misunderstand the anda relationship, comparing it to simple friendship or military alliance. But sitting here with Temuji's blood warming your throat, you grasp its cosmic significance.
In a world where clan loyalty defines everything, blood brotherhood creates a supernatural exception, a chosen bond that rivals birth connections. Some scholars argue this institution helped Genghis Khan transcend tribal limitations, building his empire on personal loyalties that crossed traditional boundaries.
Tell them the story of the first Anda, your grandmother requests from her place of honor. She's speaking to the shaman's apprentice, but really addressing the assembled young people, ensuring another generation understands these sacred patterns. The young woman nods and begins the ancient tale, her voice taking on the rhythmic cadence of formal recitation. In the age before horses, when men hunted on foot and women first learned to work felt, 2 boys were born to feuding clans, Batu to the sunrise people, Tului to those who faced sunset. Their families hated with the passion of old wounds, stolen horses, murdered kinsmen, dishonored daughters. The boys should have been enemies from birth. She pauses, letting tension build. But heaven had other plans. Lost in a blizzard, each boy found shelter in the same cave. For 3 days they shared warmth, their meager food, stories of their families. When the storm cleared, they couldn't see enemies anymore. Only another boy who'd shown courage and generosity. Your mother and Temujin's mother listen from the women's side, their faces showing the complex emotions this ceremony brings. Your mother gains another son, but also another set of obligations. When she preserves meat for winter, Temujin's portion must be considered. When she weaves felt, his children's needs matter equally with her own grandchildren's. This expansion of maternal duty would overwhelm women in softer societies. But Mongol mothers possess strength refined by centuries of managing complex households. The boys knew their clans would forbid friendship, the shaman's apprentice continues. So they met in secret, sharing hunting skills, teaching each other their family's traditions. But secrets have short lives on the steppes. When their fathers discovered the friendship, rage shook both camps. The boys were beaten, confined, threatened with disinheritance. She smiles slightly. But heaven's plans aren't easily thwarted. That winter, wolves descended from the mountains in numbers never seen before or since. Desperate, the feuding clans were forced to cooperate or watch everyone perish. Temujin shifts beside you, and you know he's thinking what you're thinking. Will your bond face similar tests? Your clans aren't enemies like in the story, but life on the steppes provides plenty of opportunities for conflicting loyalties. What happens when his clan needs pastures your family has claimed? When his sister wishes to marry someone your father opposes? These questions don't have easy answers, which is why Anda ceremonies require such careful consideration. Fighting side by side against the wolf packs, the 2 clans discovered what the boys already knew. Their similarities outweighed their differences. Both honored the same traditions, feared the same spirits, hoped for the same futures for their children. When Batu saved Tolui's father from a wolf's jaws and Tolui's mother nursed Batu through fever, the feud's foundation crumbled. The apprentice's voice grows stronger, approaching the crucial moment. On the spring equinox, with both clans watching, the boys mixed their blood in a bowl of silver and drank. What heaven has joined, they declared, let no human tear apart. Your uncle, ever practical, asked the question many wonder about. But what of inheritance? If underbrothers share everything, how do their children divide property? It's a fair concern. Blood brotherhood's beauty lies in its transcendence of material considerations. But humans still live in a world of limited resources. Temujin's father answers with hard-won wisdom. My grandfather was Anda to Sukbata of the northern clans. When Sukbata died young, leaving 3 sons and a pregnant widow, my grandfather took them into his gear without question. Yes, it meant less inheritance for his own children. But those adopted sons became our clan's fiercest warriors, and Sukbata's daughter married my father, bringing her dowry full circle. Heaven rewards those who honor sacred bonds. The ceremony concludes with practical demonstrations of your new relationship. You and Temujin exchange weapons, his beautifully crafted knife for your bow. These aren't mere gifts but tools of survival you're entrusting to each other. Your mothers exchange cooking implements, acknowledging their shared responsibility for both sons' nourishment. Your fathers trade horses, ensuring both families benefit from the other's breeding lines. Some say the Khan's Anda with Jamaica shows the danger of blood brotherhood, someone mentions quietly, referring to Genghis Khan's most famous friend-turned-enemy. The adults exchange meaningful glances. It's a delicate subject. The Khan and Jamaica swore brotherhood as boys, but destiny drove them to opposite sides of the unification wars. Their tragic conflict ended with Jamaica's execution, though the Khan honored him with a bloodless death befitting their former bond.
That story teaches wisdom, not warning, your grandmother interjects firmly. Even sacred bonds can't override heaven's greater plans. The Khan offered Jamaica reconciliation multiple times. Jamaica chose pride over brotherhood. The failure wasn't in the Anda oath but in human weakness. She looks directly at you and Tamuj. Remember, this bond demands humility as much as loyalty. When disagreements arise, and they will, seek heaven's guidance rather than human pride. As the gathering disperses, you and Tamuj sit together in comfortable silence. The magnitude of what you've done settles over you like a well-worn deal. Every decision you make now affects not just your family, but his. Every triumph you achieve honors both bloodlines. Every failure shames two clans instead of one. It's a weight that would crush those raised in individualistic societies. But here it feels right. An acknowledgement that humans weren't meant to face life's trials alone. Your sister approaches with bowls of special meat prepared according to your mother's recipe, but served in dishes from Tamuj's household. This simple act symbolizes how your lives will interweave going forward. Distinct traditions blending without losing their essential characters. She serves Tamuj first, acknowledging his new status as another brother, then offers you yours with a smile that says she understands the gravity of gaining another protector. That night, sleeping under stars that witnessed the first Anda oath countless generations ago, you dream of running with Tamuj across endless grasslands. Sometimes you're wolves, hunting in perfect coordination. Sometimes you're eagles, soaring on the same wind currents. But always you're together, facing whatever heaven sends with the strength that comes from choosing brotherhood. The modern world might mock such bonds as primitive, but lying here with the eternal sky above and your Anda brother nearby, you understand truths that no amount of civilized sophistication can improve upon. The horn sounds 3 times, cutting through the morning air like a blade through silk. You drop the harness you're mending and run toward the assembly ground, joining hundreds of other men converging from every direction. This is the call to form your Arban, your unit of 10 warriors that represents the fundamental building block of Mongol military might. As you reach your designated position, the 9 other men of your unit are already gathering, each one as familiar to you as your own brothers. In fact, Tamuj stands among them, your Anda bond making your placement together both natural and strategically wise. Your unit leader, Altan, counts heads with the efficiency of long practice. He's only 25, but already bears scars from campaigns against the Tanguts and Jin. More importantly, he possesses that rare combination of ferocity in battle and genuine care for his men that distinguishes great Mongol officers. Complete, he announces to the Zun commander, the leader of our 100, composed of 10 Arbans like yours. This decimal system, historians note with continued amazement, allows the Khan to mobilize armies of unprecedented size while maintaining precise command structure. The Khan has decreed new formations, the Zun commander announces. Heaven revealed to him in dreams that our enemies study our tactics. We must become like water, maintaining our essential nature while changing form. This isn't mere rhetoric. Genghis Khan's military genius lies partly in constant adaptation, refusing to let successful tactics become predictable patterns.
Your grandfather remembers when Mongol warfare meant simple clan raids. Now you're part of the most sophisticated military machine the world has ever seen. The training begins immediately. Your Arban must perfect a new maneuver, appearing to retreat in disorder, then wheeling in precise coordination to unleash devastating arrow volleys on pursuing enemies. It sounds simple, it's not. Each man must maintain exact spacing while controlling a galloping horse, drawing a bow, and tracking multiple targets. One rider out of position destroys the entire formation's effectiveness. This is why the decimal system includes brutal discipline. Your life depends on 9 other men performing flawlessly, and theirs depends on you. Jochi slows us again, mutters Batu, your unit's best archer but worst diplomatist. He's referring to the newest member, a boy of 16, whose family recently joined your clan. Altan overhears and responds with teaching rather than anger. Remember your first formations. We carried you then. Now you excel. Heaven grants different gifts at different times. This philosophy, collective responsibility for individual development, transforms groups of strangers into brothers more surely than shared blood. The morning progresses through endless repetition. Form, retreat, wheel, fire. Form, retreat, wheel, fire. Your thighs burn from gripping your horse. Your shoulders ache from drawing your bow. Sweat stings your eyes despite the cold. But gradually, something magical happens. 10 individual warriors merge into a single organism, each man anticipating the other's movements, compensating for minor errors, achieving that fluid unity that makes Mongol cavalry unstoppable. Better, Altan acknowledges after the 20th repetition. But in battle, the Jin will have crossbows seeking your hearts. The Khwarezm will have armored knights trying to scatter you. Better means your children mourn at your funeral. We need perfect. No participation trophies here, no lowered standards for feeling's sake. The decimal system works because it demands excellence and creates structures to achieve it. Your father rides past with his own unit. He serves in a different zone, preventing family loyalties from compromising military efficiency. But he catches your eye and nods approval. That small gesture means more than any verbal praise. In Mongol society, fathers shape sons, not through endless affirmation, but through example and expectation. You straighten in your saddle, determined to honor his training. During a brief rest, the Zun commander gathers the Arban leaders for instruction, while you and your unit brothers share water and dried meat. The conversation naturally turns to the decimal system's origins. My grandfather knew Genghis Khan before the organization, says your unit's eldest member, a grizzled warrior named Mongol. Back then, battles were chaos, every clan fighting separately, heroes seeking individual glory, while their brothers died unsupported. The Khan watched, learned, understood that victory requires surrendering personal fame for collective power. Temujin adds insight from his father's teachings. The Chinese fight in rigid formations, the Muslims rely on individual champions, the Christians charge as heavy cavalry mobs. But the Khan asked, what if we could combine discipline with flexibility, unity with initiative? The decimal system answers that question. He's right. Military historians still marvel at how this organization balances central command with tactical independence, allowing armies to function coherently across vast distances. The young Jochi, still stinging from earlier criticism, asks tentatively, but why 10? Why not 8 or 12? It's actually an intelligent question, showing he thinks beyond mere obedience. Altan returns from his meeting in time to answer. Watch your hands. He spreads his fingers. 10, the number heaven gave humans to count with, natural, memorable, perfect for quick battlefield calculations. A Zun commander knows instantly he has 100 men. A Mingan commander controls exactly 1,000. Simple enough for an unlettered warrior, sophisticated enough for complex maneuvers. The training resumes with inter-Arban competitions. Your unit must coordinate with another Arban to execute a pincer movement, demonstrating how decimal units combine into larger formations. This scalability from 10 to 100 to 1,000 to 2 men of 10,000
allows the Mongol military to maintain coherent organization, whether raiding with 50 men or invading with 50,000. No other contemporary military achieves such flexible precision. Remember, the Zoom commander lectures as units practice merging and splitting. You're not just warriors, but brothers bound by shared danger. In other armies, men fight for pay, or because lords command them. You fight for the 9 men whose survival depends on your courage. This psychological insight underlies the decimal system's power. By creating small, intimate units within vast armies, it harnesses both tribal loyalty and imperial discipline. The spiritual dimension emerges during the noon prayers. Each Arban faces the eternal blue sky, while Altan leads the invocation. Tengri, you who gave the Khan wisdom to organize us, grant that we honor this gift through perfect unity. Let no personal glory tempt us from collective strength. Let no fear make us abandon our brothers. The prayer reinforces that military organization reflects cosmic order. Just as heaven coordinates countless stars in harmonious movement, the decimal system coordinates warriors into invincible formations. Your mother appears at the training ground's edge with other clan women, bringing fresh horses and supplies. This isn't unusual. Mongol military success depends heavily on the women who maintain logistics while men fight. She inspects your equipment with practiced eyes, noting which straps need replacement, which arrows fly untrue. Her authority in these matters is absolute. No warrior questions a woman's judgment about equipment maintenance, understanding that masculine pride means nothing if faulty gear causes defeat. The Jin ambassador claims our decimal system makes us predictable, mentions another warrior during afternoon practice, says their generals have learned to counter our formations. The men laugh, understanding what the ambassador doesn't. The system's strength lies not in specific tactics, but in its adaptability. Today you practice one maneuver. Tomorrow, Altan might restructure the entire Arban based on battlefield needs. The decimal framework enables, not constrains, tactical innovation. As sunset approaches, your Arban achieves something beautiful. The new maneuver flows like water, each man moving in perfect harmony with his brothers. Altan allows himself a rare smile. Now you understand. The decimal system isn't about numbers, it's about trust. Jockey knows Batu will cover his retreat. Monkey knows you'll support his advance. I know all 9 of you will fight like demons to protect each other. This is why we conquer cities that should destroy us. The horn sounds again, this time dismissing the day's training. But before dispersing, your Arban performs one final ritual. Each man places his hand on the unit's standard, a simple horsetail banner that nonetheless represents your collective honor. Until death, you swear together, renewing the oath that binds you tighter than family. This isn't dramatic exaggeration, but literal truth. Deserting your Arban brings execution, but more importantly, eternal shame that follows your bloodline forever. Walking back to your ger, muscles aching but spirit soaring, you reflect on the day's lessons. The decimal system seems simple, organizing men by tens, but contains profound wisdom about human nature and divine order. It acknowledges that men fight best in small brotherhoods, while requiring those brotherhoods to serve larger purposes. It balances individual initiative with collective discipline. Most importantly, it transforms ordinary shepherds into world conquerors by giving them structure, purpose, and unshakable bonds with their brothers in arms. The execution ground lies just beyond the camp's eastern edge, where the earth has been worn smooth by countless gatherings of justice. You stand with your Arban, forming part of the circle that surrounds the condemned man. His name was Belgati, though after today, it will be spoken only in whispers as a cautionary tale. The charge, desertion during battle against the Tanguts, abandoning his brothers when they needed him most. His fate was sealed the moment he chose personal survival over sacred duty. The Khan himself presides over this judgment, his presence transforming mere punishment into cosmic restoration. He sits upon a simple felt cushion, no throne, no elevation above his people, yet his authority fills the space like morning sunlight. Beside him stand his generals, men who've earned their positions through merit rather than birth, living proof that in the Mongol Empire, heaven rewards courage and competence above all else. Belguti of the Taichiud clan, the Khan speaks, his voice carrying across the silent assembly without need for shouting. You were given the honor of serving in Subiti's Tumen. You swore before Tengri to protect your brothers in arms. When arrows flew at Kingshir Pass, you threw down your bow and fled. 3 men of your Arban died covering the gap you left. Each word falls like a hammer blow, not dramatic but simply factual, which makes them infinitely worse. The condemned man doesn't deny the charges. How could he? 20 witnesses saw his flight, including Alton, who stands rigid beside you. I was afraid, Belgutai says simply. The Jin crossbows. Their bolts punched through our armor like paper. When I saw Ochir fall with iron through his throat, terror took my mind. His honesty might earn sympathy in softer societies, but here it only confirms his guilt. Fear visits every warrior. Allowing it to master you violates the fundamental compact between men who face death together. Your grandmother has told you stories of the old days, before the Khan's law brought order to the steppes. Then desertion might bring blood feud between families, cycles of vengeance that destroyed entire clans. But Genghis Khan's genius lay in transforming personal revenge into impersonal justice. The law is clear, known to all, applied equally whether the criminal is a shepherd's son or a general's brother. This certainty, historians note, provided the stability that allowed nomadic warriors to become empire builders.
Does any man speak for the condemned? The Khan asks, following the formal procedure that ensures even the guilty receive full hearing. Silence greets the question. In other circumstances, Belgutai's family might plead for mercy, offer compensation, invoke past services. But desertion occupies a special category of shame. His own father stands in the crowd, face carved from stone, having publicly disowned his son the moment news of the cowardice reached their ger. In Mongol culture, a father's primary duty involves raising sons who honor the family name. Belgutai's father failed in this sacred task, a shame that will shadow his remaining years. The Khan nods, unsurprised by the silence. Heaven's law speaks clearly. A warrior who abandons his brothers invites chaos into the world's order. If one man can flee without consequence, why not 10? Why not 100? Soon, no army exists, only individuals seeking personal advantage. This cannot be. He gestures to the execution squad. 9 men from Belgutai's own former Arban, forced to participate in restoring the honor he stained. Here unfolds another genius element of Mongol justice. By requiring the betrayed unit to perform the execution, the law accomplishes multiple purposes. It provides closure for the survivors, allows them to personally restore their collective honor, and reminds every warrior that their actions affect their brothers profoundly. Some historians view this as primitive cruelty, missing how it reinforces the mutual responsibility that makes the decimal system function. I don't want to die, Belgutai says quietly, and for a moment you glimpse the terrified boy beneath the warrior's exterior. He's perhaps 19, barely older than yourself, with a young wife and infant son back in his clan's territory. But the law recognizes no exceptions for youth, family, or momentary weakness. The stability of the entire empire rests upon absolute certainty that some actions bring inevitable consequences. Your mother stands among the women witnesses, her face showing the complex emotions this scene evokes. As a mother, she surely sympathizes with Belgutai's mother, who will keen for a son she can never properly mourn. But as a clan matriarch, she understands that allowing cowardice to spread would ultimately destroy more families than harsh justice ever could. The women's presence here isn't accidental. They must understand the laws their sons will live and die under, preparing boys from infancy for the warrior's path. The execution method itself reflects Mongol values. No torture, no prolonged suffering intended as entertainment. Belguti will die by strangulation, bloodless, allowing his soul to depart cleanly, without the pollution that comes from spilling blood upon the earth. Even in executing justice, the Mongols maintain their reverence for the spiritual forces that govern existence. It's a mercy that many criminals in civilized lands don't receive, facing instead the scaffold's drop or the headsman's axe. As the executioners step forward with the silk cord, another touch of honor using precious material rather than common rope, Belguti makes one final statement. Tell my son. Tell him his father died poorly. Let him learn from my failure. These words restore a fragment of honor, acknowledging guilt and hoping his negative example might guide future generations. Several men nod approvingly. Even in ultimate disgrace, a man can serve his family by providing cautionary instruction. The strangulation proceeds with grim efficiency. Belguti's Arban brothers perform their duty without joy but without hesitation, understanding that mercy here would be cruelty to every warrior who might face battle alongside unreliable companions. You force yourself to watch, knowing that someday you might stand in that circle, either as executioner or, heaven forbid, as condemned. The law makes no exceptions, shows no favorites, admits no excuses. Let all men understand, the Khan speaks as Belguti's struggles cease. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but mastery over it. Every warrior knows terror, facing Chinese thundercrash bombs, Persian elephants, Russian winter. What separates men from cowards is choosing duty despite that terror. Belguti forgot this truth. Remember it and remember him. It's a teaching moment, transforming execution into education for the assembled warriors. The body is removed without ceremony. He forfeited the right to proper burial rites through his actions. His name will be erased from clan genealogies. His widow encouraged to remarry quickly. His son raised by uncles who will ensure he learns strength rather than weakness. It seems harsh, this complete erasure, but contains its own mercy. By thoroughly eliminating the coward's legacy, Mongol law prevents the shame from following innocent descendants indefinitely. After the assembly disperses, you walk with Temujin back toward your gers. Your Anda brother breaks the contemplative silence. I've imagined it, you know. That moment when death seems certain and every instinct screams to flee. What if my courage fails? It's a question every honest warrior asks himself. Usually in the dark hours before battle, when bravado sleeps and truth wakes. Then I'll strike you down myself, you reply, only half joking. Better to die by a brother's hand than live with such shame. But it won't happen. We've trained together, bled together, sworn together. When the moment comes, you'll remember our oath means more than momentary fear. This mutual reinforcement, brothers holding each other accountable, provides the psychological foundation that prevents most warriors from following Belguti's path. Your father intercepts you before you reach the ger, his expression thoughtful. You watched well. Now understand. That could be any of us. Given the wrong moment's weakness, the law's harshness protects us from our own frailty. He pauses, choosing words carefully. Your mother worries you'll think me cruel for bringing you to witness this, but genuine love prepares sons for reality, not comfortable lies. Better you understand now what stakes you'll face as a warrior.
That night, the execution haunts your dreams, but not as nightmare. Instead, you see yourself at that crucial moment Belgoti faced. Enemies advancing, death seeming certain, every fiber screaming to flee. But in the dream, you remember your Arban brothers beside you, your father's teachings, your mother's prayers, the Khan's justice, heaven's watching eyes. You stand firm, arrow nocked, facing whatever comes. You wake understanding that the day's harsh lesson has roots of love. A society that demands ultimate courage must teach ultimate consequences. The scholars who study Mongol military dominance often focus on tactics, weapons, mobility. But sitting in your ger, listening to your sister sing your baby brother to sleep with ancient lullabies about heroes who chose death over dishonor, you understand the deeper truth. The Mongol war machine runs on spiritual fuel, absolute certainty that some values transcend individual survival, that masculine courage properly channeled serves divine purposes, that the harsh law that took Belguti's life ultimately protects the innocent by ensuring only the brave stand between families and chaos. Chinese engineer kneels before your assembled army, his silk robes incongruous against the dusty ground of the siege camp. Behind him, the walls of Zhongdu rise like manufactured mountains, their rammed earth and brick construction representing centuries of defensive innovation. But this man, Master Liu, former architect to the Jin Emperor, has chosen survival over loyalty, offering knowledge that will transform those walls from protection into tomb. You watch from your position with the siege unit, close enough to hear every word, as Subutai himself conducts the interrogation. The counterweight trebuchet, Master Liu explains through a translator, his hands sketching designs in the dirt, can throw stones of 300 jin over distances your catapults cannot achieve. His fingers tremble slightly. Whether from fear or excitement at explaining his life's work, you cannot tell. But more importantly, it maintains consistent accuracy. Place 5 of these machines, and you can focus their strikes on a single section of wall until it crumbles. Your unit commander, a grizzled Mongol who learned siegecraft the hard way, through bloody failures at Ningxia, spits thoughtfully. We are warriors of the open steppe. What need have we for such complications? Our grandfathers conquered without these machines. It's a common sentiment among traditionalists, this suspicion of foreign innovation. But Genghis Khan's genius lies partly in recognizing that heaven provides teachers in many forms, even among enemies. Subutai, the Khan's most brilliant general despite his humble origins as a blacksmith's son, responds with characteristic wisdom. When hunting, do we refuse to study our prey's habits? The Chinese have spent 1,000 years perfecting walls. We would be fools to ignore their knowledge simply because it comes from foreign minds. He gestures to Master Liu. Continue. Show us these trebuchets of yours. The scene before you encapsulates something historians still debate. Was Mongol success due to superior tactics or superior adaptability? Watching Master Liu direct Mongol craftsmen in constructing the first trebuchet, you understand it's both. Your people's willingness to learn from anyone, anywhere, transforms yesterday's enemies into today's teachers. This intellectual humility, paradoxically, makes you masters over those too proud to adapt. Your Excellency must understand. Master Liu becomes more animated as the structure takes shape. The Jin believed walls made them invincible, but walls are only as strong as the will defending them. When defenders see their fortifications crumble under precise bombardment, their spirits break, faster than their walls. He pauses, perhaps remembering he's teaching the destruction of his own people's cities. I serve heaven's mandate now. The Jin have lost divine favor, else why would your Khan triumph so consistently? This rationalization, switching sides, means following heaven's shifting favor, helps many conquered peoples accept their fate. Your mother explained it once. People need meaning more than bread. Give them a story that preserves some dignity
in defeat, and they'll serve faithfully. It's another form of Mongol genius, this psychological sophistication hidden beneath apparent barbarism. Your father stands among the senior warriors, observing the demonstration. His presence here isn't accidental. He commanded during the siege of Yinchuan, where traditional Mongol tactics failed catastrophically against Chinese fortifications. That bitter experience taught him what he's now ensuring you learn. Pride in traditional ways must yield to practical necessity when facing new challenges. A lesser man might hide his past failures. Your father uses them as teaching opportunities. Observe the beam's proportion, Master Liu instructs as Mongol craftsmen. Many of them captured Chinese and Muslims who've proven their loyalty. Assemble the trebuchet's throwing arm. Too long and it lacks power. Too short and accuracy suffers. The ancient texts specify exact ratios discovered through centuries of trial. This blending of empirical knowledge with reverent tradition appeals to Mongol sensibilities. You're not abandoning your ancestors' ways, but adding new wisdom to ancient foundations. Young Jochi from your Arban asks what everyone wonders. But Master Liu, why betray your people's secrets? Don't Chinese value loyalty above life? It's boldly direct, typically Mongol, and the translator hesitates before conveying it. But Master Liu seems to expect such questions. Loyalty to what? He responds with surprising passion. To an emperor who taxed my village into starvation. To generals who conscripted my sons for pointless wars against you Mongols, sending boys with farming tools against your mounted archers. His voice drops. My loyalty is to knowledge itself. These machines I create. They're mathematics made manifest, divine proportions given physical form. Better they serve those who appreciate such wisdom than rot, unused behind walls that will fall anyway. This pragmatism resonates with your people's worldview. The Mongols respect loyalty, but recognize its practical limits. A man who clings to abstract principles while his family starves is a fool, not a hero. Master Liu chose survival and significance over meaningless martyrdom. In doing so, he exemplifies the flexible morality that allows empires to absorb useful people, regardless of origin. The first test shot amazes even skeptical veterans. The massive stone arcs through the air with devastating grace, smashing into a target wall section with explosive force. Your uncle, standing nearby, whistles appreciation. Like heaven's own fist. No wonder the Chinese cities we've taken all show such damage. I thought it was their thunder crash bombs, but this. He trails off, calculating how such weapons might change future campaigns. But Subutai sees deeper implications. Tell me, Master Liu, these principles you describe, counterweights, proportions, trajectories, can they be adapted? Made larger, smaller, modified for different purposes? The general's questions reveal strategic thinking that transcends mere imitation. He wants not just Chinese weapons, but Chinese principles he can reshape for Mongol purposes. Of course, Excellence, the fundamental mathematics remain constant. Once understood, they can be applied to create machines the Jin never imagined. For instance, Master Liu launches into technical explanations that lose most listeners, but you notice Subetai's intense focus. He's not just learning to use Chinese weapons, he's learning to think like a Chinese engineer while retaining Mongol creativity. Your sister arrives with other women, bringing fermented mare's milk and dried meat for the workers. This integration of domestic support with military operations exemplifies Mongol efficiency. While Chinese armies rely on complex supply chains vulnerable to disruption, Mongol forces move with their entire support system. The women observe the siege engines with interest. They'll need to understand these machines to properly pack and transport them.
In my grandfather's time, your grandmother mentions to anyone listening, warriors mocked the first men who used Chinese armor instead of traditional leather, called them soft, afraid of honest wounds. Then those soft warriors survived battles that killed traditionalists. Wisdom means recognizing when foreign ways serve our purposes. She offers Master Liu a bowl of airag, a gesture of acceptance that means more than formal declarations. The cultural exchange flows both directions. Master Liu watches fascinated as Mongol engineers suggest modifications based on steppe warfare needs. But that would make it portable, he exclaims when someone proposes a collapsible design. The texts say nothing about, but yes, mathematically it could work. This fusion of Chinese theory with Mongol practicality will produce siege weapons unlike anything either culture created alone. Your father approaches as training continues. Learn this well, he instructs quietly. Not just the machinery. Any fool can memorize construction. Learn the thinking behind it. Master Liu trades knowledge for position and protection. Subiate transforms foreign weapons into Mongol advantages. The Khan builds empire not through stubborn tradition, but selective adoption. This flexibility is our true strength. As afternoon fades, you help disassemble the practiced trebuchet, your hands now familiar with components that seemed impossibly complex this morning. Master Liu oversees, correcting errors with patience born from teaching students who could execute him for failure. But there's no threat in the air. The Mongols value competence too highly to waste it on petty vengeance. Tomorrow, Subiate announces, we begin training crews. Each unit will include Chinese engineers, Muslim mathematicians, and Mongol commanders. Let our enemies face not separate traditions, but their unified strength. This multicultural approach would seem revolutionary if it weren't so practically effective. By combining expertise regardless of origin, the Mongols create military capabilities that homogeneous armies can't match. That evening, Master Liu dines in your family's ger, an honor that acknowledges his new status as valuable advisor rather than mere prisoner. Your mother serves him with the same courtesy she'd show any respected guest, while your father discusses siege experiences with genuine interest in Chinese perspectives. This isn't forced politeness, but pragmatic hospitality. Today's prisoner becomes tomorrow's teacher, next year's trusted specialist. The Yam messenger arrives at full gallop, his horse lathered with sweat despite the morning cold. You recognize the signs immediately. The special pazer hanging from his neck, the distinctive blue sash marking him as one who carries the Khan's words across the empire. Your entire camp stops what they're doing, understanding that when the Yam rides, the empire itself speaks. The messenger doesn't dismount, doesn't even slow, simply shouts his requirement. Fresh mount, water, continue west. Your father is already leading out one of his best horses, pre-saddled and ready, because interfering with the Yam brings punishment worse than death. That's the third messenger this week heading west, your uncle observes quietly, helping transfer the sealed leather pouches from the exhausted horse to the fresh one. Something stirs in Khwarezm. The Yam network doesn't just carry routine communications. It's the nervous system of an empire that stretches from sunrise to sunset. When messages flow this frequently, it usually means war preparations, diplomatic crises, or matters that affect every family from here to the Western Mountains. You help water the spent horse while the messenger gulps airag from your mother's own bowl, another honor that acknowledges the Yam's sacred status. He's perhaps 19, not much older than you, but his eyes carry the weight of someone who's ridden through blizzards, sandstorms, and hostile territory to ensure the Empire's messages arrive. The Yam riders are chosen for endurance, horsemanship, and above all, incorruptible loyalty. They carry secrets that could topple kingdoms. Yet tradition holds that a Yam messenger would die under torture before revealing his cargo's contents. Tell me, young warrior, your grandmother addresses the messenger with the familiarity due to one serving the Empire's needs. Do the roads stay clear? My nephew trades in Bukhara, and his wife grows anxious. It's a clever question. not asking about message contents, which would be improper, but gathering intelligence about general conditions. The Yam riders see everything in their travels, becoming the empire's informal news network. The messenger finishes drinking, precious seconds ticking away from his schedule. The roads hold, grandmother. The Khan's peace prevails from here to the Caspian. But, he hesitates, then adds quietly, tell your nephew to conclude his business quickly. The seasons change. With that cryptic warning, he's back in the saddle, fresh horse lunging forward into the endless grassland, carrying whatever secrets will shape 10,000 families' futures. Your family watches until horse and rider disappear over the horizon, then returns to daily tasks with new urgency. The messenger's warning spreads through subtle conversations, not panic, but prudent preparation. Your mother begins checking food stores. Your father examines weapons with fresh attention. Everyone understands that when the Yam runs hot, ordinary people must be ready for extraordinary times. In my youth, your grandfather begins, settling by the fire to share wisdom with gathered young people. Before the Khan established the Yam, messages traveled with merchants, slowly, unreliably. A clan could be destroyed before allies knew they needed help. Wars started from misunderstandings that proper communication would have prevented. He accepts tea from your sister, continuing. Temujin understood that empire requires more than conquest. It needs sinews of information binding distant parts into one body. This organizational genius sets the Mongols apart from previous steppe confederations. Where others relied on personal loyalty and face-to-face meetings, Genghis Khan created institutions that function regardless of individual relationships. The Yam represents bureaucracy in its most elegant form. Not the suffocating paperwork of Chinese administrators, but a living network that adapts to circumstances while maintaining core functions. Your brother, recently returned from serving as a Yam station guard, adds technical details. Every station maintains 40 horses minimum, always saddled. Riders change mounts every 30 li, sometimes running from one horse to the next without touching ground. In emergencies, they tie themselves to the saddle and ride through the night, sleeping in motion. His voice carries pride and awe. I've seen messages cross from Karakorum to Kiev in 2 weeks, faster than eagles fly. But speed means nothing without security, your father interjects, always thinking tactically. The Khan's genius lies in making the Yam inviolate. Attack a messenger, and entire tumans mobilize for vengeance. Rob a way station, and your clan faces annihilation. This certainty of punishment creates safety more surely than any guards could. It's another example of Mongol efficiency. Psychological deterrence requiring minimal physical resources. Historians still debate whether the Mongols invented the Yam or adapted existing systems. Listening to your family discuss its intricacies, you understand it doesn't matter. Like everything else in your empire, the Yam takes useful elements from anywhere: Chinese postal traditions, Persian courier practices, steppe migration patterns, and forges them into something uniquely effective. This intellectual flexibility, more than any tactical advantage, explains Mongol dominance. Your cousin arrives from her husband's clan with disturbing news. Yam riders questioned everyone about grain stores, available warriors, horse conditions. They carried tablets for recording answers. This information gathering represents another Yam function. Not just carrying messages, but collecting intelligence. The Khan knows more about his empire's true condition than any ruler in history, because the Yam's eyes see everything. Its memory forgets nothing. Such knowledge brings responsibility, your mother observes, organizing her daughters to prepare emergency supplies. When the Khan knows our capabilities, he can demand them fully. No clan can claim poverty when Yam records show their wealth. No chief can exaggerate his warriors when accurate counts exist in Karakorum. This transparency cuts both ways, preventing corruption while enabling maximum extraction of resources. The
The day continues with everyone affected by the morning's messenger. Your sister practices her writing using the Mongolian script adapted from Uyghur teachers. Literacy spreading because the Yum needs local record keepers. Your brothers check horse equipment with fresh diligence, knowing they might be called to serve as replacement riders. Even your grandmother sorts through her memory hoard of family connections, understanding that in troubled times, knowing who to trust matters more than material wealth. That evening, another Yum rider appears from the east, this one traveling at a more measured pace that suggests routine rather than emergency communications. Your family provides the required hospitality, fresh mount, provisions, brief rest, while carefully avoiding forbidden questions about message contents. But this messenger volunteers information. The Khan returns from hunting. All Tumens are ordered to prepare for review. This means military inspection, counting of forces, verification that paper strength matches reality.
See how the Yam binds us? Your father explains to younger children.
A decision made this morning in Karakoram reaches us tonight. Will touch the western forests by week's end. No empire has achieved such unity across such distances. He's right. Roman roads carried legions efficiently, but information moved at walking pace. Chinese bureaucracy maintained detailed records, but communication crawled through hierarchical channels. The Yam combines speed with detail, creating administrative capabilities that won't be matched for centuries. Your uncle mentions a story from his trading days. In Samarkand, I met a Persian merchant who mocked our Yam. What need have civilized people for such haste? He asked. Important matters require deliberation, not speed. 2 months later, his business collapsed because Chinese silk prices shifted, and he learned too late to adjust. Everyone chuckles, understanding the deeper truth. In a connected world, information delayed is opportunity lost. As night falls, your family discusses implications of the day's messages. If the Khan reviews troops, campaigns approach. If Western tensions escalate, trade routes might close. If grain counts proceed, new taxes loom. The Yam doesn't just carry information, it creates ripples of preparation, speculation, adaptation throughout the empire. Every message shapes thousands of decisions by families like yours, trying to position themselves advantageously for whatever comes. Your grandmother offers final wisdom before sleep. The Yam teaches heaven's own lesson. All things connect. A decision in distant lands touches our Ger. A messenger riding past changes our plans. The Khan understands this truth and built an empire upon it. Remember when you feel insignificant. You too are part of this great web, your actions rippling outward through connections you cannot see. Lying in your furs, you hear another Yam rider thunder past in darkness, carrying unknown words toward unknown consequences. The sound reminds you that while you sleep, the empire never rests. Messages flow like blood through vast body, maintaining life across impossible distances. Tomorrow, those messages might bring conscription orders, trade opportunities, news of victories or defeats. But tonight, they simply remind you that you belong to something greater than family or clan. An empire that breathes through the Yam's ceaseless motion. The Buddhist monk sits cross-legged before your clan's assembly, his saffron robes a splash of foreign color against the muted browns and grays of Mongol dress. Beside him, the Nestorian Christian priest clutches his wooden cross, eyeing the Muslim imam who fingers his prayer beads with equal nervousness. All three have been summoned to present their faiths to your clan,
part of the Khan's policy of religious examination. Your father presides over this theological marketplace with the same practical attention he'd give to selecting horses, listening for strength, watching for weakness, testing for usefulness. The Buddha teaches that suffering arises from attachment. The monk begins. His translator, a Tangut merchant who follows both Buddhism and profit with equal devotion, converting melodious Sanskrit into practical Mongolian. Release desire and find peace beyond this world's illusions. Several elderly women nod appreciatively. Buddhism has filtered into the steppes for generations through trade routes, its promise of escape from suffering appealing to those who've known plenty of it. Your uncle interrupts with typical directness. This detachment you preach, does it make warriors fight better or worse? Can a man who desires nothing defend his family with proper fury? It's not mockery, but genuine inquiry. The Mongols judge everything by practical results, and a religion that weakens martial spirit has no place in an empire built on conquest. The monk smiles serenely, apparently expecting such questions. The greatest warriors fight without hatred, kill without cruelty. Attachment to anger clouds judgment. The Buddha's teachings create not weakness but clarity, seeing battle's necessity without being consumed by its passion. He gestures to your grandmother. Your wise women understand this. They grieve the dead without letting sorrow paralyze them. This is Buddhist wisdom lived without Buddhist names. Before anyone can respond, the Imam interjects, clearly feeling his faith losing ground. Allah demands not detachment but submission. 5 times daily, believers prostrate toward Mecca, acknowledging the one God who judges all. His Turkic-accented Mongolian carries the fervor of recent conversion. Paradise awaits those who die in righteous battle. This life is not illusion but test. Will you choose good or evil, truth or falsehood? Another war god. Your grandfather mutters, loud enough for all to hear. We have Tengri already. Why do we need your Allah? The question reflects genuine confusion. Mongol theology easily incorporates new spirits and powers. The cosmos is vast enough for countless divine beings. But monotheism's exclusive claims puzzle a people who see divinity everywhere. The Imam's face reddens, but before he can reply, the Christian priest speaks up. His Mongolian is surprisingly good. Nestorian communities have existed along the Silk Road for centuries, adapting to local cultures with remarkable flexibility. The Christ offers what neither Buddha nor Muhammad can: God become man, divinity entering suffering to redeem it. Not escape from the world or submission to distant deity, but transformation through divine love. Your mother, listening from the women's section, asks the question many wonder. Your God died on a cross? How does a dead God protect living followers? Our ancestors grow stronger after death, but they were strong in life first. This backwards progression confuses. Her tone isn't disrespectful. Mongol women regularly participate in theological discussions, but genuinely puzzled by Christianity's central paradox. The priest struggles to explain resurrection, redemption, theological concepts that translate poorly into a worldview where strength and practical results matter most. Meanwhile, the monk observes with slight satisfaction. The Imam scowls at what he considers blasphemy, and your clanspeople listen with the patient attention they'd give any merchant presenting wares, interested but uncommitted. Tell us of marriage and your faiths, your grandmother commands, cutting to matters that affect daily life. How many wives? What inheritance laws? Who commands the household? These practical questions matter more than abstract theology. A religion might promise beautiful afterlife, but if it disrupts proven family structures, it threatens survival itself. The monk speaks of celibate monasticism, earning incredulous looks. The Imam describes 4 wives permitted but equal treatment required, causing thoughtful murmurs. Polygamy isn't unknown here, but the mathematical equality seems impractical. The priest advocates monogamy, which some find appealing, others limiting. Each system has logic, but none perfectly match the flexible arrangements that steppe life demands. Your cousin, recently returned from China, adds perspective. In the Song territories, I saw Buddhist temples wealthy beyond imagination, while peasants starved. Muslim merchants used religious law to justify usury. Christian converts abandoned ancestor worship, breaking families apart. He pauses, letting implications sink in. Perhaps the question isn't which religion is true, but how followers live its teachings. This pragmatism characterizes Mongol religious policy. Historians often praise Genghis Khan's religious tolerance. But watching your clan evaluate these faiths, you understand it's more complex. The Mongols don't tolerate religion. They utilize it. Useful practices get adopted, harmful ones rejected, and the overall framework remains fundamentally shamanistic, with Tengri above all. We've heard your words, your father finally speaks, his judgment carrying the weight of clan leadership. Each path contains wisdom. The Buddhist speaks truly about attachment's dangers. We've seen warriors destroyed by vengeance lust. The Muslim rightly emphasizes submission to heaven's will. We know pride precedes destruction. The Christian mysteriously claims divine suffering redeems human pain, perhaps comfort for those who've lost everything. He continues, but none of you explain why Tengri granted us victory over your civilized peoples. Buddhist Chinese fall before our arrows, despite their detachment. Muslim Khwarizm crumbles despite Allah's supposed protection. Christian Russians flee though their god allegedly conquered death. The religious representatives shift uncomfortably, unable to answer this theological challenge backed by military reality. Therefore, your father concludes, we decree thus. Any clan member may follow these paths if they strengthen rather than weaken. Pray to Buddha, Allah, Christ, but remember Tengri watches above all. Keep your festivals if they don't interfere with migrations. Follow your dietary laws if they don't threaten survival. But, his voice hardens, abandon clan obligations for religious duties and face exile. Place foreign god above family loyalty and become stranger to us. This solution, religious freedom within practical limits, satisfies most. Your aunt mentions she might try Buddhist meditation for her headaches. A young warrior considers Islamic paradise as additional insurance to traditional sky burial. Your sister finds Christian emphasis on female virtue appealing, though she'll never accept their strange celibacy ideas. Everyone takes what seems useful while maintaining core identity. The religious representatives receive proper hospitality, food, shelter, safe passage to the next clan. But watching them depart, you sense their frustration. They came to convert souls, found instead a theological marketplace where their deepest beliefs became consumer goods. The monk's serenity seems forced, the imam's certainty shaken, the priest's joy dimmed. They've encountered something more challenging than rejection, selective acceptance that transforms their universal truths into local options. Your grandmother offers final wisdom as the clan disperses. These foreign faiths resemble Chinese medicine, powerful in proper doses, poisonous in excess. Take what heals, leave what harms. But remember, the strongest medicine grows from our own soil. Tengri's blue sky covers all equally. Our ancestors' spirits know our needs intimately. Foreign gods may offer interesting perspectives, but would you trust your life to strangers over family? That evening, your mother leads traditional prayers, thanking the spirits of place for continued protection. Your father offers meat to the sky,
maintaining ancient compact between heaven and earth. These simple rituals lack the philosophical complexity of Buddhism, the systematic theology of Islam, the dramatic narratives of Christianity, but they work, binding family, clan, and cosmos in relationships proven over countless generations.
Later, discussing the day with Temüc, your Anda brother mentions his own thoughts. Perhaps the Khan's genius isn't tolerating all religions, but understanding their political value. Buddhists make peaceful subjects. Muslims create trade networks. Christians bring technological knowledge. Let them all flourish, taxing their prosperity while maintaining our own strength through traditional ways. It's a cynical but probably accurate assessment. The Mongol Empire succeeds through selective adoption, military techniques from China, administrative practices from Persia, trade systems from Arabs, all integrated into fundamentally Mongol frameworks. Religion receives the same treatment, useful elements incorporated, threatening aspects neutralized, overall structure unchanged. Lying under stars that witness the first prayers of the first humans, you contemplate the day's theological circus. These sophisticated religions, with their texts and temples and complex hierarchies, seem suddenly fragile compared to your people's direct relationship with natural forces. The monk spoke of escaping suffering, but suffering shapes strength. The imam demanded submission, but Mongols submit only to proven power. The priest offered divine love, but clan bonds already provide unshakable support. The plunder arrives in waves, carried by warriors whose horses stagger under the weight of silk, gold, and precious stones looted from Urgench's burning ruins. You stand with your family as the massive accumulation of wealth spreads across the staging ground. Enough riches to make your eyes water, enough to transform every herding family into merchants of luxury. But nobody touches anything. Not yet. The Khan's law concerning plunder distribution is absolute, and violating it means death, regardless of rank or relationship. Your father returns with his unit, dust-covered and exhausted but alive. The siege of Urgench lasted 6 months, the Khwarezm defenders fighting with desperate fury born from knowing no mercy awaited them. Your father's eyes carry that hollow look of men who've seen too much death, but he manages a weary smile seeing his family safe. The city fell like heaven decreed, he reports simply. Now comes the dividing. The process begins with mathematical precision that would impress Chinese accountants. Every piece of plunder, from golden dinars to cooking pots, gets catalogued by specially appointed clerks, many of them literate prisoners who earn survival through useful skills. Your cousin serves as one of the guards preventing any early grabbing, his position one of tremendous trust. The temptation to pocket just one small jewel must be overwhelming, but the certainty of discovery and punishment keeps hands honest. In grandfather's time, your uncle explains to younger relatives, warriors kept what they personally seized. The strongest got rich, the wounded got nothing. Clans fought over spoils before the enemy even finished dying. He gestures at the orderly process before you. The Khan changed everything. Now victory belongs to all who contributed. Even camp guards who never saw battle receive shares. This wisdom binds us together stronger than any oath. The distribution follows strict hierarchical formula, but one that acknowledges every contribution. The Khan takes his 20%, not for personal wealth but to fund the empire's administration, reward loyal service, and maintain the vast military machine. Generals receive shares based on tactical contribution rather than noble birth. Unit commanders get portions reflecting their men's performance. Then comes the revolutionary part. Every single warrior, down to the newest recruit, receives a precisely calculated share. Your mother watches with other wives as special portions get set aside for widows and orphans. This isn't charity but law. Men who died taking Urgench earned shares that pass to their families. See how the Khan protects women without weakening them, she tells your sister. A widow receives her husband's portion not as pitiful beggar, but as heir to a warrior's earned wealth. She can remarry from strength, not desperation. The theological implications run deep. In most armies,
Looting is chaotic selfishness sanctioned by victory, but Mongol distribution reflects cosmic order, hierarchy respected, contribution rewarded, dependence protected. Even the scheduling follows ritual patterns. Distribution begins at dawn, when Tengri's light can witness fair dealing. Each man approaches the dividing ground from the east, accepting his portion while facing the eternal sky. Young Jolchi from your Arban receives his first major share, hands trembling as he accepts a silk-wrapped bundle that represents more wealth than his herding family has ever possessed. But watch what happens next. His unit brothers immediately surround him, not to grab but to advise. Send half to your mother, Altan counsels. Trade some silk for good horses, another suggests. Save silver for bride price, adds a third. This communal wisdom helps young warriors avoid the waste that sudden wealth often brings. The Christians preach that money corrupts, mentions a warrior who spent time in Russian lands. But poverty corrupts worse. Watch a man steal bread for starving children. That's corruption born of need. The Khan's distributions create warriors wealthy enough to act honorably. It's a profound insight. By ensuring every fighter profits from victory, Mongol law removes the desperation that drives battlefield atrocities. Your grandmother, too old for travel but sharp as ever, directs her granddaughters in sorting the family's growing pile of goods. Silk for dowries, silver for trade, jewels for desperate times. She instructs with the authority of someone who's survived enough disasters to know preparation's value. But remember, wealth is tool, not master. The Khwarazm grew soft counting gold, while we grew strong counting arrows. A dispute arises when two warriors claim the same ornate saddle. In other armies, such conflicts might spark violence. Here, established procedures activate immediately. Witnesses testify about who seized what during the city's fall. When memories conflict, the items get divided equally. If division proves impossible, lots are drawn with shamanic blessing. The system isn't perfect, but it's fair enough that losers accept results without blood feuds. The women's portions deserve special mention. While they didn't fight at Urgench, their work maintaining camps, managing supplies, and producing equipment earned recognition. Each wife receives a share calculated from her husband's portion. Not charity, but acknowledged partnership. Unmarried daughters get smaller amounts, carefully recorded for their dowries. Even female slaves taken at Urgench receive tiny portions, recognizing that their labor now serves Mongol households. Foreign merchants claim we're mere barbarian looters, your father observes during midday break. Yet their civilized armies rape and pillage without order, enriching only officers while common soldiers stay poor. We've turned plunder into science, ensuring every participant benefits. Which system shows true barbarism? The question needs no answer. Mongol efficiency and distribution mirrors their battlefield tactics, organized, effective, sustainable. As afternoon progresses, specialized distributions begin. Warriors who showed exceptional valor receive bonus portions publicly, their deeds recited for all to hear. This isn't just reward, but education. Young fighters learn what actions earn recognition. Conversely, those who showed cowardice or disobeyed orders receive reduced shares, their shame equally public. The economic punishment reinforces military discipline more effectively than any amount of flogging. Your share arrives wrapped in Chinese silk, a moderate portion reflecting your junior status, but still representing wealth beyond previous imagination. The weight of gold coins, the gleam of silver ornaments, the practical iron tools taken from Khwarazm workshops. Each item carries stories of empire, conquest, and systematic redistribution that transforms nomad warriors into stakeholders in world domination. The blizzard strikes without mercy, transforming the world into a howling white void that swallows everything beyond arm's reach. You huddle in your family's ger as winds that could strip flesh from bone assault the felt walls with demonic fury. The temperature plummets so severely that your breath doesn't just fog, it crystallizes and falls as ice crystals onto your dell. This is winter on the steppes showing its true face, the season that kills more surely than any human enemy. Your mother maintains the central fire with religious devotion, understanding that if it dies, you all die. The dry dung burns steady but low. Fuel must last until spring, so warmth becomes a carefully rationed resource. Your family clusters close, sharing body heat in patterns refined by countless generations. The youngest children nestle between adults, protected by living barriers of flesh and wool. Even your dogs crowd inside, their usual outdoor hardiness overwhelmed by cold that historians estimate reached -60 degrees during the worst Mongol winters. 3 families in the eastern valleys lost their fires last night, your uncle reports, ice crackling in his beard as he speaks. The Borjigin found them this morning, frozen solid, still sitting as if merely sleeping. The news sends shivers beyond what cold causes. Freezing deaths happen fast on the steppes. Fall asleep without adequate heat, and you never wake. Your grandmother mutters protective prayers, calling on ancestral spirits to maintain your fire through the storm's fury. Outside, your family's animals endure misery that would destroy lesser breeds. The horses stand in tight groups, rumps to the wind, heads down, conserving energy with instinctive wisdom. The sheep cluster so densely they seem like a single woolly organism. But you know that come morning, some would have died. The weakest, paying nature's price for genetic improvement of the survivors. This brutal selection, repeated every winter for millennia, created animals tough enough to sustain your civilization. Your father and brothers take turns checking the herds, wrapped in every piece of clothing the family owns. These brief expeditions into the blizzard require extraordinary courage. Men have died 20 steps from their gers, becoming disoriented in the white chaos. Your family uses the ancient system, a felt rope tied from the ger entrance to the animal shelters, a lifeline in the literal sense. Even so, each journey out risks everything. Tell us of the winter of the White Death. Your youngest sister requests, seeking distraction from the cold penetrating even our snug shelter. Your grandfather needs no encouragement, launching into the tale that combines historical fact with spiritual teaching. When I was younger than you, little one, such a winter came that even the wolves froze in their dens. The weak clans, those who hadn't prepared, who'd grown lazy during mild years, vanished entirely. Come spring, we found their gers standing empty, families dead at their posts. The story continues with familiar themes. How the strong survived through preparation and discipline. How the foolish perished despite their wealth. How heaven uses winter to test human worthiness. But embedded within are practical lessons. Your grandmother adds technical details. We survived because my mother knew the signs. How rabbits grew extra thick fur that autumn. How the geese fled south earlier than usual. We gathered more fuel, slaughtered extra animals for preserved meat, reinforced our ger with double walls. This indigenous weather prediction, dismissed by literate civilizations as superstition, shows remarkable accuracy. Your people read nature's subtle signals, the behavior of animals, the patterns of grass growth, the color of sunset clouds, with precision that matches any Chinese astronomical calculation. Modern meteorologists would recognize the principles, if not the methods. Careful observation of environmental indicators, combined with generational pattern recognition. But knowing means nothing without acting, your father interjects from where he's repairing harness by firelight. That winter, clans who saw the signs but delayed preparation died just as surely as the ignorant. Heaven rewards foresight only when paired with effort. He glances meaningfully at you and your brothers. Remember this when you have your own families. The grasshopper singing in summer becomes ice sculpture in winter. The cold intensifies as night deepens. Ice forms on the inside of the ger walls despite the fire,
creating fantastic patterns that would seem beautiful if they weren't so deadly. Your mother organizes sleeping arrangements with strategic precision, the youngest in the warmest center spots, adults forming protective outer layers, everyone sharing the massive felt blankets that trap collective heat. Privacy becomes an unaffordable luxury when survival requires skin-to-skin warmth. Your sister starts coughing, the harsh, dry hack that signals respiratory distress from extreme cold. Immediately, your mother shifts into healing mode, preparing traditional remedies passed through female lineages. Hot broth from preserved meat mixed with dried herbs gathered during summer specifically for winter ailments. A poultice of rendered fat and crushed juniper for her chest. These aren't primitive folk remedies, but sophisticated pharmacology developed through trial and error over centuries. In China, they build stone houses with elaborate heating systems, mentions your cousin who traded in Beijing. Floors warmed by underground fires, walls that trap heat, windows of paper that let in light but block wind. He pauses, considering. Yet when the Jin armies ventured onto our steppes in winter, they died by thousands despite their technology. Their buildings couldn't move with the seasons, couldn't follow grass and shelter. Fixed comfort became fatal weakness. This mobility versus comfort trade-off defines much of Mongol culture. You could build permanent structures, develop elaborate heating systems, create the material comfort that settle peoples enjoy. But then, you'd be trapped when pastures fail, when enemies approach, when heaven commands movement. The Gur's genius lies not in maximum comfort, but optimal adaptability, warm enough to survive, light enough to flee. Around midnight, the wind achieves new heights of fury. The Gur's wooden frame groans ominously, and for terrifying moments, you wonder if the structure will hold. Your father and uncles brace the walls from inside, adding their strength to the architectural design. This is another test. Inferior Gurs collapse in such storms, crushing or exposing their inhabitants. But your family's dwelling, built with traditional expertise, flexes without breaking. Sing the strengthening songs, your grandmother commands. Her ancient voice cutting through wind howl. The family begins the rhythmic chants, designed to fortify both dwelling and spirit during winter's assault. These aren't mere entertainment, but psychological technology. Group singing maintains morale, synchronized breathing conserves energy, and the songs themselves encode survival information in memorable form. Dawn brings slight wind reduction, but no warmth. Your father ventures out to check the animals, returning with grim news. We lost 12 sheep, 2 horses. The cold took them clean, no suffering, just sleep becoming death. The losses hurt economically and emotionally, but everyone understands this is relatively light damage. Some families will lose half their herds before spring. The calculation is brutal but simple. Keep enough breeding stock to rebuild. Sacrifice the rest if necessary. Your breakfast reflects winter's iron rationing, tea made from dried herbs and a tiny amount of precious brick tea traded from China. Dried meat, carefully portioned to last until grass returns. A small portion of dried milk products, their fat content essential for generating body heat. Everything calculated to provide maximum nutrition with minimum resource expenditure. Your stomach growls constantly, but true starvation waits for those who consume reserves too quickly. Foreign travelers mock our winter diet, your uncle observes. They crave vegetables, fruits, varied flavors. Then they sicken and die while we survive on meat and milk. Their bodies, adapted to agricultural plenty, can't shift to our efficient fuel. He's identifying a profound biological truth. The Mongol metabolism, shaped by countless winters, extracts maximum energy from minimal input, a human parallel to your animal's adaptations. The Kurultai assembles on the sacred grounds where the Onon and Kierlin rivers meet, a site chosen by shamans for its spiritual power since before memory begins. Thousands of gears spread across the valley like white mushrooms after rain, each positioned according to strict hierarchical rules that reflect cosmic order. You've traveled 6 weeks to reach this gathering, your family joining the greatest assemblage of Mongol power since Genghis Khan first united the tribes. The air thrums with tension, succession stands at stake, and every decision made here will echo through generations.
Your father takes his place among the minor nobility, men who command hundreds rather than thousands, but whose voices still matter in the ancient democracy of the steppes. The great lords occupy the center ground. Ogedei, the Khan's chosen successor, solid and dependable. Tolui, youngest but perhaps most gifted militarily. Chagatai, fierce keeper of tradition. Jochi, whose disputed paternity creates undercurrents of conflict. Each son commands loyalty from different factions, and the Kurultai must navigate these dangerous waters. In the old days, your grandfather explains to younger relatives, such gatherings often ended in bloodshed. Brother fought brother, clan battled clan, until only exhaustion brought resolution. He gestures toward the ordered assembly. The Khan gave us laws for peaceful succession, not perfect laws. Perfection exists only in heaven, but better than chaos. This systematization of power transfer represents one of Genghis Khan's greatest innovations, transforming tribal confederation into sustainable empire. The women established their own parallel assembly, officially excluded from voting, but wielding influence through channels outsiders rarely perceive. Your mother joins discussions where marriages get proposed, alliances subtly negotiated, information traded with sophistication that would impress Chinese courtiers. Men cast votes, your grandmother observes, but women shape thoughts that determine those votes. A wise wife speaks softly at night, and morning finds her husband strangely convinced of ideas he believes originated in his own mind. The opening ceremonies blend ancient tradition with imperial innovation. Shamans perform rituals dating to when your ancestors first rode horses, calling on Tengri to guide the assembly's decisions. But alongside traditional prayers, literate scribes record proceedings in the new Mongolian script, creating permanent records of what once existed only in memory. This fusion, spiritual authority documented in writing, symbolizes your empire's evolution from tribal to civilizational power. Ogedei rises to address the assembly, his manner deliberately modest, acknowledging that succession isn't his by right but by collective acceptance. My father chose me not for excellence, my brothers match or exceed my abilities, but for adequacy in all things. I lack Jochi's cavalry genius, Chagatai's legal mind, Tolui's strategic brilliance, but perhaps the empire needs a coordinator more than another conqueror. It's masterful rhetoric, transforming potential weakness into strength, making humility seem like qualification. The debate begins with senior commanders evaluating each candidate. Subeite supports Ogedei, arguing that administrative competence now matters more than pure military skill. We have generals aplenty. We need someone who will build on the Khan's foundations, rather than seeking only new conquests. But others disagree. A Keriite chieftain backs Tolui. The world hasn't submitted yet. We need a war leader, not a clerk counting tribute payments. Your cousin, serving as guard, whispers observations during breaks. Watch the middle-ranking leaders. They hold real power here. The great lords cancel each other out. But commanders of thousands, leaders of traditional clans, they swing decisions. He's right. The Kurultai operates through complex democracy, where every free man theoretically has voice. But practical influence clusters around those commanding significant military forces. Days pass in intricate negotiations. Each candidate's supporters present cases, mixing practical arguments with spiritual justifications. Chagatai's faction emphasizes his role as keeper of the Yasa, the Khan's law code. Who better to preserve his father's legacy than the son who memorized every statute? Jochi's people stress his proven battlefield record. The empire expands through conquest, not conversation. Choose the strongest sword arm. The debates remain remarkably civil. The Khan's prohibition against shedding blood at Kurultais holds firm. Your sister, though young, attends some women's gatherings with your mother. She returns with fascinating intelligence. Borti Ujin, the great Khatun, favors Ogedei, but refuses to influence publicly.
She says the men must choose freely, or the decision lacks heaven's blessing. But everyone knows her preference anyway. She trained Ogedai's wife in household management, preparing her for supreme position. The religious dimension surfaces repeatedly. A Buddhist Lama argues that Ogedai's temperance suits an empire incorporating diverse faiths. A Muslim merchant mentions Tolui's excessive drinking as spiritual weakness. Christian Nestorians quietly support whoever promises continued religious freedom. These foreign advisors can't vote, but their opinions influence Mongol leaders who've learned to value outside perspectives on imperial management. Between formal sessions, the real politicking unfolds. Your father meets with other minor nobles, building consensus through patient discussion. Tolui would make a glorious conqueror, he reports after one gathering. But glory and stability rarely coincide. Ogedai offers boring competence, exactly what empire building requires. This pragmatism, choosing adequate administration over brilliant warfare, shows political maturity that surprises historians studying barbarian governance. The economic arguments prove particularly compelling. Caravan masters testify that Ogedai understands trade's importance, promising to maintain roads and protect merchants. Jochi speaks only of new campaigns westward, one mentions. But who'll buy our goods if every city lies in ruins? The Mongol Empire's evolution from pure extraction to trade facilitation requires leadership that values gold flowing through commerce as much as gold seized in conquest. Your grandmother provides historical context. I've lived through 3 major Kurultais. Each reflects its moment's needs. When unity mattered most, we chose Temujin, despite his youth. When expansion beckoned, we confirmed his military reorganization. Now, with empire established, we need different qualities. Heaven provides appropriate leaders for each season. The voting process itself follows ancient forms, modernized for imperial scale. Each Mingan commander declares his thousands' preference publicly. Secret ballots haven't been invented yet, and Mongol democracy operates through open declaration. The momentum builds slowly for Ogedai, not overwhelming enthusiasm, but steady accumulation of practical support. Leaders choose stability, administrators choose competence, merchants choose commercial continuity. Jochi withdraws his candidacy with grace that earns universal respect, throwing support to Ogedai. The empire needs unity more than any individual's ambition, he declares. I'll find glory conquering westward while my brother builds internally. Chagatai follows, recognizing mathematical inevitability. Only Tolui holds out, his military supporters reluctant to accept a lesser warrior as supreme leader. The deadlock breaks through compromise. Ogedai will be great Khan, but Tolui receives command of the family's personal troops, the elite forces answering only to Genghis Khan's direct line. This solution preserves military excellence while ensuring administrative competence, balancing competing needs through structural innovation rather than winner-take-all conflict. When consensus finally emerges, the spiritual ceremonies begin. Ogedai sits on a white felt carpet as 9 senior commanders lift him skyward, presenting the new Khan to heaven for divine approval. Shamans read the signs: eagle flights, wind patterns, the shapes of ritual fires, and pronounce Tengri's satisfaction. The religious theatre might seem primitive, but it serves crucial purpose, transforming political decision into cosmic mandate. Your family watches as the empire's leadership transfers peacefully, a process that would involve civil war in most kingdoms. The Kurultai has spoken, selecting competent administration over military brilliance, commercial stability over conquest glory. It's a mature decision by a young empire, suggesting that Mongol power might endure beyond typical nomadic confederations' brief lifespan. That night, celebrating Ogedai's elevation with moderate feasting.
The new Khan forbids excessive display, setting a tone of restraint. Your father reflects on the proceedings. We've witnessed history, not the dramatic battles poets sing about, but the patient construction of lasting power. The Khan built empire through conquest. His son must maintain it through wisdom. Heaven willing, your sons will inherit something even greater, an empire that builds rather than merely takes. The Silk Road caravan stretches beyond sight. 2,000 camels laden with treasures that represent the circulation of the world's lifeblood through Mongol arteries. You ride guard duty alongside your arban, protecting merchants who've paid handsomely for the privilege of traveling under the Khan's banner. The diversity amazes. Chinese silk merchants arguing with Persian rug dealers, Indian spice traders gossiping with Byzantine jewelers, all united by Mongol steel that makes this impossible journey merely difficult. Your position today places you near a Venetian merchant, Marco by name, whose endless questions about Mongol customs provide entertainment during the monotonous hours. In Christendom, he says, struggling with accented Mongolian, bandits make such journeys impossible without armies for protection. Yet here, 10 warriors guard fortunes that would tempt kings. How does your Khan command such obedience across impossible distances? You consider how to explain what seems natural to you but miraculous to outsiders. Those who rob merchants under Mongol protection face more than death. Their families, their clans, their names are erased. We caught bandits near Otrar last season. The Khan ordered their entire lineage hunted down, not from cruelty, but to make the punishment so terrible that crime becomes literally unthinkable. The Venetian pales, but you see understanding dawn. Extreme consequences create extreme safety. The caravan master, a Muslim from Bukhara named Hassan, who's made this journey 40 times, rides up to check the forward scout's reports. Clear to the horizon, praise be to Allah and the Khan's peace. He's adapted the traditional Islamic phrases to include Mongol authority, a theological flexibility that survival demands. We'll reach the way station by nightfall. Hot food, fresh mounts, and, he winks, perhaps some of that Turkestani wine that officially doesn't exist. These way stations, positioned every 30 to 40 miles along major routes, represent infrastructure investment that would bankrupt kingdoms. But the Khan understands what Chinese emperors and Persian shahs missed. Wealth flows through movement, and protecting that movement multiplies prosperity beyond any static hoarding. Your family contributes horses and supplies to the nearest station, receiving in return a portion of the taxes levied on passing merchants. Passive income from active protection. Tell me, Marco continues, apparently fascinated by economics as much as warfare. How does your Khan prevent corruption among guards and officials? In Venice, such wealth would create irresistible temptation. Bribes would flow like water. Protection would become extortion. It's a fair question. The Mongol system seems vulnerable to the same human greed that corrupts every empire. Your unit commander Altan, overhearing, provides the answer. See that merchant's seal? He points to a silver paisa hanging from Hassan's neck. Issued in Karakorum, registered with the Imperial Secretariat. If he arrives at his destination missing even one camel load, investigation begins immediately. The station masters must account for every merchant who passes. Guards who fail in protection face the same penalties as bandits. The system watches itself. This self-monitoring structure, refined through decades of trial and error, creates what economists would call aligned incentives. Everyone benefits from honest service. Everyone suffers from corruption. It's not perfect. Your father has mentioned cases where officials collaborated with bandits for shared profit, but the detection rate stays high enough to discourage most attempts. The caravan includes goods that reveal the empire's reach. Chinese porcelain wrapped in felt to survive the journey. Indian pepper worth its weight in silver by the time it reaches European tables. Persian steel ingots that will become Mongol swords. Furs from the northern forests where your cousins hunt. Each item carries stories. represents connections between peoples who might otherwise never know of each other's existence. Your women, Marco notes, watching a group of Mongol merchant wives who travel with their husbands. They show their faces, speak to strangers, conduct business directly. In Muslim lands, in Christendom, this would be scandal. He seems more intrigued than scandalized, carefully documenting these observations in a leather journal he guards as carefully as the merchants guard their gold. Women who can't ride, can't trade, can't defend themselves become burdens when traveling. You explain. The caravan moves too fast for sedan chairs and veils. Either everyone contributes or the journey fails. This practical reality has created unexpected freedoms. Mongol merchant women often become formidable traders, their mobility allowing them to spot opportunities that sequestered competitors miss. A commotion ahead brings your unit to alert. Riders approach at speed, not attacking, but clearly agitated. They're from another caravan, traveling eastward, bearing news that sends ripples of concern through the merchants. Plague in Kaffa, their leader reports. The port is closed, ships rot at anchor. Any goods bound for Constantinople must find other routes. This information's value exceeds any physical cargo. Within hours, merchants recalculate their plans. Those carrying goods for Byzantine markets negotiate new destinations. Others, seeing opportunity in crisis, arrange to buy suddenly devalued merchandise. The Silk Road functions as information network as much as trade route, carrying news that shapes economies thousands of miles away. Your grandmother told you stories of the old days, before Mongol unification, when each tribal territory demanded separate payments, when safe passage extended only to the next hill. Merchants traveled in fear, prices multiplied with each border, goods moved like drops when they should flow like rivers. The Khan's genius lay in recognizing that unified protection creates wealth that exceeds any amount of raiding plunder. Hassan organizes the evening camp with practiced efficiency. Circular formation, goods inside, guards posted according to proven patterns. The diversity of religions creates interesting logistics. Muslims need space for prayers facing Mecca. Buddhists burn incense that makes horses nervous. Christians insist on blessing their food in ways that amuse the shamanist Mongols. But Hassan navigates these differences with the skill of long practice. The Khan's law supersedes all religious law on the road. He explains when a dispute arises over whether wine can be consumed in presence of Muslims. Respect each other's customs where possible, but commercial necessity takes precedence. A drunk guard endangers everyone, regardless of his faith. This pragmatic theology, subordinating spiritual concerns to mercantile needs, creates a uniquely commercial morality. Night brings its own rhythms. Your unit takes rotating watches, maintaining the vigilance that reputation demands. The merchants gather around fires, sharing stories and information that's as valuable as their physical goods. You overhear negotiations conducted in mixtures of languages, deals struck with handshakes that will move fortunes across continents. This casual trust, guaranteed by Mongol enforcement, enables transactions impossible in more civilized but less secure environments. A Chinese merchant shares tea with your unit during middle watch, a courtesy that acknowledges your protection's value. My grandfather tried this journey once before your people's unification. 60 guards, 20% losses to bandits, bribes at every oasis. The silk that survived sold for gold, but the risk destroyed most who attempted it. He gestures at the peaceful camp. Now I travel with my daughter, teaching her the routes. What was barely possible for armies becomes routine for families. Your relief arrives, and you settle into your bedroll thinking about the transformation you're witnessing. The Mongol Empire, born in violence, has become history's greatest facilitator of peaceful exchange. Your sword protects not just merchants, but ideas, technologies, diseases, recipes, stories, all the invisible cargo that shapes civilizations. The tribute your family receives from this protection funds better weapons, stronger horses, educated children who might someday guide even greater transformations.
Marco the Venetian scribbles in his journal by firelight, documenting wonders his countrymen will struggle to believe. But you live these wonders daily. A Mongol warrior, protecting Italian merchants carrying Chinese goods to Islamic ports for Christian consumption. The world has become one vast marketplace, and your people hold the keys to every door. The plague-ridden corpses fly over Kaffa's walls in graceful arcs, flung by the same trebuchets that usually launch stones. You watch from your position with the siege forces, trying not to retch as the diseased bodies land with wet thuds in the city's streets. The stench reaches even your position upwind, a mixture of putrefaction and something worse, the smell of strategic innovation that will echo through history. Your commander, a student of Subetea's tactics, observes the trajectory with professional interest. "Let their God protect them from this," he mutters in satisfaction. 3 weeks ago, the plague appeared in your camp like an unwelcome spirit. Men who were healthy at dawn died by sunset, their groins and necks swollen with pustules that leaked black blood. The shamans declared it heaven's curse. The Muslim auxiliaries called it Allah's judgment. The Christian slaves whispered about the end times. But your general saw opportunity where others saw only catastrophe. "The defenders mock us from their walls," he announced. "Let them share our suffering." Your father warned you about biological warfare before you left for campaign. "The Chinese taught us that disease can be weapon," he said. "Poisoned wells, infected animals, corrupted supplies. But this," he struggled for words, "this transforms nature's cruelty into human tool. Once such knowledge spreads, warfare changes forever." His prophecy proves accurate as you watch defenders flee from the corpse bombardment, their psychological terror exceeding even the physical threat. The Genoese merchants who control Kaffa had thought themselves safe behind their stone walls, protected by Italian engineering and Byzantine gold. They'd laughed at Mongol demands for submission, confident that nomad horsemen couldn't breach properly fortified defenses. But they calculated without considering the empire's capacity for innovation, its willingness to transform any situation into tactical advantage. Now their laughter has turned to prayers that go unanswered. "In grandfather's time," mentions Batbold, an older warrior in your unit, "we fought with honor, blade against blade, courage against courage. This," he spits toward the city, "this feels like cowardice." Several men nod agreement, uncomfortable with warfare that kills invisibly, that turns disease into ally. But Altan corrects them sharply. "Honor means victory. Dead warriors protect no families. If the enemy hides behind walls, we use whatever breaches them." The theological implications trouble some warriors. A Nestorian Christian in your unit refuses to handle the corpses, claiming it violates divine law. The Buddhist contingent performs endless purification rituals. Even hardened Mongol shamans seem uneasy, warning that disturbing the plague dead might anger their spirits. But military necessity overrides spiritual concerns. The siege has lasted too long, consumed too many resources. If biological weapons can force surrender, theological debates become luxury nobody can afford. You're assigned to corpse collection duty, a task that combines disgust with mortal danger. Wrapped in felt soaked with vinegar, a Chinese doctor's recommendation that might or might not provide protection, you help load plague victims onto the trebuchets. The bodies are always fresh, death's supply exceeding the siege engine's capacity. Some are your former comrades, men you shared meals with days ago. Now they're ammunition in history's first recorded biological warfare campaign. The effects become visible within days. Smoke rises from multiple points within Kaffa as the defenders burn their accumulating dead. The jeering from the walls ceases, replaced by an ominous silence broken only by church bells tolling continuously. Refugees begin appearing at the gates, begging for release, but the Genoese leaders order them back at crossbow point. They understand that allowing exodus would spread the plague while providing intelligence to besiegers. Mark this moment, Your general announces during an officer's briefing you're permitted to observe as your unit leader's aide. We write new rules of warfare. Future enemies will copy our innovation, improving upon it, finding defenses against it. But today, we hold advantage. He's already planning the next phase, accepting Kaffa's surrender while preventing infected defenders from spreading plague to Mongol forces. It's a delicate balance between pressing advantage and avoiding self-destruction. Your mother's cousin serves with the medical corps, treating both plague victims and the inevitable battle wounds. She reports desperate experimentation with treatments, prayers, poultices, bloodletting, even capturing healthy rats to replace diseased ones, based on steppe wisdom about balance in nature. Nothing works consistently, but the Mongol forces seem slightly less susceptible than city dwellers. Perhaps our harsh lives create stronger bodies, she theorizes. Or perhaps heaven protects its chosen warriors. The moral debates intensify as victory approaches. Young warriors boast about the innovation, seeing it as proof of Mongol superiority. We turn even death into weapon, they crow. But veterans seem more troubled. Your uncle, visiting from another siege unit, shares his concerns. Power without limit becomes poison. Today we fling corpses, tomorrow. He doesn't finish, but the implication hangs heavy. Once certain boundaries break, they can't be rebuilt. Ships begin fleeing Kaffa's harbor despite the Mongol naval blockade, their captains choosing the risk of arrow and flame over certain plague death. Your general allows some to escape, a calculated decision that puzzles subordinates until he explains. Let them carry fear across the waters. Every port that hears of Kaffa will surrender rather than face similar fate. Terror spreads faster than any army. It's brilliant psychological warfare, using escaped refugees as vectors for panic. The surrender comes suddenly. Kaffa's gates open not with military ceremony but desperate chaos, as survivors flee the corpse-filled city. Your forces maintain careful distance, allowing the exodus while preventing contact. The general orders the city burned rather than occupied, unusual for Mongols who typically preserve useful infrastructure. Some victories cost more than defeats, he observes, watching flames consume what plague began. You're part of the unit assigned to count and catalogue abandoned wealth. Wearing the same felt and vinegar protection used for corpse duty, you enter a city transformed into necropolis. Bodies lie everywhere, in streets, in homes, piled against churches where they sought divine protection that never came. The wealth is staggering, warehouses full of silk, spices, precious metals. But it feels cursed, purchased with suffering that exceeds normal warfare's clean violence. The documentation process reveals plague's democratic nature. Rich merchants lie dead beside poor laborers. The bishop's palace contains as many corpses as the slave quarters. Disease recognizes no social hierarchy, follows no human rules about worthy and unworthy victims. This equality in death seems to mock the elaborate social structures humans construct, suggesting that nature's weapons surpass human categories. Your unit discovers something significant in the harbor master's office. Detailed records of ships that fled before the final collapse, their destinations, their cargo. The general receives this intelligence with grim satisfaction. The Genoese thought to escape our justice by sea. Instead, they carry our weapon to their own homelands. Let the Mediterranean learn what opposing the Khan costs. You realize with growing horror that the plague, once released, can't be controlled or recalled. That night, camped safely upwind from Kaffa's burning ruins, you struggle with conflicting emotions. Victory tastes like ashes. The innovative tactics that should bring pride instead bring unease. You've participated in something unprecedented. Warfare that harnesses nature's cruelty for human purposes. The immediate success is undeniable, but the long-term consequences remain unknowable. Your father arrives with reinforcements, having heard of Kaffa's fall. His first questions concern not the victory, but your health. After confirming you've avoided infection, he shares wisdom. Power teaches terrible lessons. We've learned that any weapon we can imagine, we can create. But should we? The Khan's law governs men's actions. What law governs our innovations? These questions have... The secret history unfolds before the gathered clan, as your grandmother recites from memory, her ancient voice carrying the cadences of 1,000 tellings. No written copies exist in your jur. This most sacred of Mongol texts lives in the minds of chosen women, passed from grandmother to granddaughter in unbroken chains stretching back to when Temujin himself walked the earth. You sit transfixed, knowing you witnessed something more precious than any Chinese manuscript or Persian scroll. Living memory that shapes living people. In the beginning, your grandmother intones, when Bortechino, the blue wolf, mated with Koa Maral, the beautiful doe, heaven ordained the bloodline that would culminate in the Khan. The genealogy that follows seems endless. Names, marriages, feuds, and alliances that map the political landscape of the steppes across centuries. But this isn't mere recitation. Each name carries lessons about loyalty and betrayal. Each marriage demonstrates strategic wisdom or fatal error. Your mother sits beside her eldest daughter, your sister who shows the gift of memory that marks future keepers of the history. They mouth the words silently along with grandmother, learning not just the stories but the precise intonations, the pauses that add meaning, the emphasis that transforms chronicle into teaching tool. This feminine preservation of masculine glory creates an interesting paradox. Women who'll never rule, maintaining the records that legitimize rule. Notice how she weaves recent events into ancient patterns. Your aunt whispers to younger nieces. When she describes Jamaka's betrayal of his under oath, she subtly compares it to last season's dispute over grazing rights. The history lives because it speaks to present through past. This dynamic quality distinguishes oral tradition from written records. Books freeze stories in time. Memory adapts them to each generation's needs, while preserving essential truths. The recitation reaches Temujin's youth, his father's poisoning, his family's abandonment by their clan, the desperate years when the future Khan survived on roots and rodents. Your grandmother's voice hardens with anger that sounds fresh despite the decades. The Tayakud who abandoned Hoyalun and her children thought themselves wise, eliminating future rivals. But heaven watches. Where are the Tayakud now? Scattered, subordinate, their names spoken only as examples of short-sighted betrayal. Young boys lean forward as she describes Temujin's first kill. His half-brother begged her, shot with arrows for stealing food. In other traditions, this fratricide might be hidden or justified, but the secret history presents it starkly. The future Khan as desperate boy making terrible choices for survival. Power born from suffering understands necessity, your grandmother explains. Leaders who've never known hardship make soft decisions. The Khan's cruelty grew from cruel lessons, but so did his justice.
Tell about the kidnapping, your youngest cousin demands, knowing what comes next. Your grandmother smiles, indulging the interruption, because this part particularly resonates with children. Berte's abduction by the Merkit, Temujin's desperate alliance building to retrieve her, the questions about Jochi's parentage that haunted the succession, all get detailed treatment that combines adventure story with political education. The women's role in preserving this history deserves examination. While men fight the battles that make history, women remember and interpret them. Your grandmother doesn't just recite, she contextualizes, explains, draws parallels that help each generation understand their place in the ongoing story. This isn't passive preservation, but active creation of meaning, shaping how Mongols understand themselves through selective emphasis and subtle commentary. Why must it stay secret? Asks a visiting cousin who spent time in Chinese territories. Their historians write everything down, make copies, spread knowledge widely. It's a reasonable question that goes to the heart of Mongol information management. Your grandmother pauses the recitation to address this crucial point about cultural technology. Written words escape their creator's control, she explains. Our enemies could read our chronicles, learn our weaknesses, predict our patterns. Worse, writing freezes interpretation. The Chinese histories my father captured say the same thing, whether read by friend or foe, wise elder or foolish youth. But our history lives
breathes, adapts. I tell it differently to warriors than to merchants, to children than to adults. The truth remains constant, but its presentation serves the audience's needs. This flexibility extends to political convenience. When your grandmother reaches the conflicts between Genghis Khan and Jamuka, her version subtly differs from what you heard in another clan last year. Not in facts, those remain sacred, but in emphasis, in which motivations get highlighted, in how blame gets distributed. The secret history functions as constitution, propaganda, moral instruction, and entertainment simultaneously, its oral nature allowing constant refinement. The foreign priests say we have no true history because we don't write it down. Mentions your brother, who often debates with Christian missionaries. They claim only written records count as real documentation. The family chuckles at this cultural blindness. Your grandmother's memory contains genealogies spanning centuries, legal precedents from pre-imperial times, medical knowledge accumulated across generations. Any single elder's mind holds more practical information than most monastery libraries. The recitation continues through Temujin's rise, his innovative military organizations, his meritocratic promotions, his systematic elimination of rivals. But notice what the secret history emphasizes. Not just victories, but methods. Not just conquests, but reasoning. This isn't mere glorification, but instructional manual, teaching future leaders how to think strategically through historical examples. When I die, your grandmother says during a pause for tea, your mother and sister will carry forward different versions of the history, not contradictory, but complementary, each emphasizing what their hearers most need to understand. This multiplicity ensures survival. Destroy one lineage of memory, others continue. Corrupt one version, others maintain purity. We are not books that burn, but voices that multiply. The evening session focuses on women's stories, often minimized in masculine tellings. Hoelun's iron will keeping her abandoned children alive. Borte's political counsel shaping crucial decisions. The daughters married to foreign princes who became intelligence networks. Your grandmother's voice grows warm with pride, describing these feminine contributions to empire. Men make war, she observes, but women make warriors. Men conquer territories, but women build the families that hold them. A philosophical debate emerges about truth versus useful fiction. The secret history contains clear mythological elements. Ancestors descended from wolves, shamanic visions guiding battles, divine interventions at crucial moments. Are these literally true? Asks your skeptical cousin. Your grandmother's response surprises with its sophistication. Truth wears many faces. Did a physical wolf mate with a deer? Perhaps not, but our people carry wolf spirit. Fierce, loyal, hunting in coordinated packs. The story tells inner truth through outer metaphor. This nuanced understanding of narrative truth shows intellectual sophistication that literate civilizations often miss in oral cultures. Your people don't confuse mythology with history, but use mythology to make history meaningful. The secret history provides not just facts, but frameworks for understanding facts, not just events, but patterns that help predict future events. As the night deepens, your grandmother reaches recent additions to the history, events within living memory that haven't yet crystallized into canonical form. Different witnesses remember differently, argue about interpretations, lobby for their versions to become official. This active construction of history, happening before your eyes, demonstrates how oral tradition remains vibrantly alive rather than passively preserved. Remember, your grandmother concludes as dawn approaches. You don't just hear the history, you become it. Every choice you make, every battle you fight, every child you raise adds threads to this tapestry. The secret history doesn't end with the Khan's death, but continues through us, his inheritors. Live worthily, that future grandmothers may recite your deeds with pride rather than shame. The succession crisis erupts like a summer storm on the steppes, sudden, violent, and threatening to tear apart everything your grandfather's generation built. You stand with your father and uncles at the clan assembly, watching alliances shift like sand as news arrives from Karakoram. Genghis Khan is dead at 42, poisoned by wine or worn out by excess, depending on which rumors you believe. The empire that seemed eternal under Genghis Khan now faces its greatest test. Can institutions outlive their creators, or will Mongol unity die with the bloodline's weakness? Monkey has the strongest claim. Your father argues in the clan council. Tolui's son, veteran of the Western campaigns, respected by the generals. But your uncles support Shiramun, Ogeday's grandson. The succession should follow the ordained line. Ogeday was chosen Khan. His descendants deserve precedence. These arguments echo across thousands of similar gatherings as the empire's constituent parts debate its future leadership. Your mother and the senior women conduct their own parallel discussions, their influence less visible but no less vital. Monkey's mother, Soragaktani Beki, plays the game brilliantly, your mother reports. Christian herself, but supporting Buddhist temples, Muslim schools, Confucian scholars. She builds coalitions across faiths, while others waste energy on purity. This feminine political sophistication, operating through marriage alliances and household networks, often determines outcomes that masculine councils merely ratify. The Yam network carries contradictory messages daily. This faction mobilizing troops, that prince claiming support, generals declaring neutrality, while secretly negotiating with multiple candidates. Your family must choose sides carefully. Wrong choice means potential destruction. Fence sitting might be worse. The stakes couldn't be higher, as the world's largest empire teeters between continued expansion and catastrophic fragmentation. In my father's time, your grandmother observes, her voice carrying the weight of having survived previous crises. Succession was simpler. The strongest took power, the weak submitted or died. The Khan's innovation, choosing successors through Kurultai, prevents immediate bloodshed but creates prolonged uncertainty. She's identified the core paradox. Democratic elements that legitimize peaceful transition also enable factional maneuvering that can paralyze decision-making. Your cousin arrives from the Western territories with disturbing intelligence. Batu Khan positions himself as kingmaker. His armies could destroy any faction, but he stays in his Russian territories, forcing others to court him. Brilliant but dangerous, he might demand the throne himself as payment for support. This fragmenting of power among the Khan's descendants creates a multipolar struggle where military might, political cunning, and legitimacy claims interweave complexly. The religious dimension complicates everything. Buddhist lamas support different candidates based on prophecies. Muslim merchants calculate which ruler would best protect trade. Christian nobles from conquered territories hope for a convert on the throne. Your family's shaman performs divinations that seem deliberately ambiguous, hedging spiritual bets until earthly powers clarify. Heaven watches, he declares unhelpfully, waiting to reveal its mandate through human actions. Your sister, training as a keeper of the secret history, provides historical context. Every nomad empire before ours collapsed within 3 generations. Grandfather broke that pattern through law and institution. Now we learn if his structures survive without his spirit. She's articulating the fundamental question. Can systems transcend personalities, or does charismatic authority inevitably decay into squabbling hereditary mediocrity? A Kurultai is called, but immediately controversy erupts over its location and composition. Monkey's supporters want it held in traditional Mongol territories where their influence dominates. Opposition factions prefer Ogedai's capital, where bureaucratic elements might balance military power. Even defining who can participate becomes contentious. Does every descendant of Genghis Khan get a vote, or only those commanding significant forces? Watch how quickly we abandon the Khan's meritocracy for blood privilege, your father notes bitterly. Men who couldn't command 100 warriors claim authority because their great-grandfather was Temujin's cousin. Meanwhile, proven generals who rose through skill get marginalized because their bloodlines lack proper pedigree. This tension between inherited status and demonstrated competence threatens the very foundations of Mongol success.
The women's intelligence networks report fascinating developments. Mongol's mother hasn't just built religious coalitions, she's systematically placed her daughters-in-law in key households, creating an information and influence network that spans the empire. She learned from Chinese palace politics but improved upon them, your aunt explains. Not hidden harem conspiracies, but open demonstrations of feminine administrative competence. Your Arban receives mobilization orders, not for war, but for readiness. Every faction prepares military options while proclaiming peaceful intentions. The decimal system that unified diverse warriors now threatens to provide organized structures for civil conflict. You sharpen weapons and check armor, praying to Tengri that Mongol won't fight Mongol, that the empire won't consume itself in fratricidal violence. Foreign enemies watch eagerly, reports a merchant recently returned from Jin territories. They pray for civil war, hoping to reclaim lands while we fight ourselves. The Persians already test borders, Russian princes withhold tribute. Our unity was our strength. Division invites disaster. This external pressure might force compromise, or it might encourage factions to seek quick victory before enemies can exploit chaos. The breakthrough comes from unexpected direction. Batu Khan, the potential kingmaker, declares he's too ill to attend any Kurultai, but sends his brothers with full authority. This removes the most powerful independent player while maintaining his faction's influence. Simultaneously, several minor candidates withdraw, calculating that visible unity might earn future rewards better than doomed resistance. Your family joins the movement toward the eventual Kurultai site, a compromised location that slightly favors Mongol but doesn't completely alienate opponents. The journey takes weeks, time filled with constant political maneuvering. Alliances form over shared meals, dissolve over perceived slights, reform around new calculations. Your mother works tirelessly, maintaining relationships with multiple factions while carefully avoiding firm commitments. This is how empires truly die, your uncle observes one evening. Not from external conquest, but internal exhaustion. We spend energy fighting each other that should face outward. The Chinese must be laughing at their conquerors, adopting their palace intrigues. His pessimism reflects growing concern that Mongol political culture, adapted for expansion, might lack mechanisms for stable continuity. The Kurultai itself, when finally convened, feels anticlimactic after months of build-up. Mongol's supporters have done their work too well. Opposition crumbles faced with overwhelming prepared consensus. The formal elevation follows traditional patterns, but everyone senses we're watching theatre rather than genuine selection. The real decisions happened in 10,000 private negotiations, feminine networks, and calculated withdrawals. We've learned something important, your father reflects afterward. The empire can survive succession crises, but each one weakens us. The Khan's bloodline produced too many capable candidates. Blessing becomes curse when ambitions multiply. He's right. The very success that created numerous potential leaders also generates conflicts that stable succession requires minimizing. Your grandmother offers final wisdom as your family prepares for the return journey. Mongol will be good Khan, experienced, competent, properly respectful of tradition while understanding innovation's necessity. But the real test comes next succession. Will we institutionalize peaceful transition or face this chaos repeatedly until exhaustion enables our enemies? She's lived long enough to know that solving immediate crises often merely postpones fundamental problems. The immediate result seems positive. Mongol begins reforms that reinvigorate administration, plans new campaigns that redirect martial energy outward, balances religious communities with practiced skill. But beneath surface stability, you sense unresolved tensions. The empire has grown too vast, its constituent parts too diverse, its ruling family too numerous for simple solutions. Riding home across steppes that your ancestors traveled for millennia, you contemplate the paradox of success. The Mongol Empire succeeded beyond any nomadic confederation's dreams, but that very success creates challenges that traditional structures strain to address. The succession crisis passed, but its lessons linger. Even the greatest human achievements carry seeds of their own transformation or destruction. The signs manifest everywhere if you know how to read them. Your tax payments to Karakoram, once a modest portion of your herds, now demand 40% of annual increase. Chinese bureaucrats, who once served Mongol masters, now issue orders with barely concealed contempt. The Yam riders carry more demands for tribute than strategic communications. Most telling of all, your younger cousins speak Chinese better than Mongolian, finding more opportunity in administrative positions than warrior traditions. The empire hasn't fallen, it's transforming into something your grandfather wouldn't recognize. You sit with your aged father, watching the sunset paint the steppes gold, both understanding without words that you're witnessing an ending. Not dramatic collapse, but slow dissolution, like felt wearing thin through too many seasons until wind penetrates what once protected. The Khan united us through shared hardship, your father observes quietly. His grandsons divide us through unequal prosperity. Some grow fat on Chinese grain, while others starve, maintaining military readiness. The immediate cause for concern arrives in the form of an imperial edict, carried by a delegation that includes more Chinese scribes than Mongol warriors. Your clan must provide soldiers for another campaign, this time against Japan, across treacherous seas. The young men mutter rebelliously. Why should steppe riders die drowning in foreign waters? What glory exists in fighting enemies we can't even ride to? The decimal system still functions, but enthusiasm has curdled into obligation. Tell them about the first unity, your grandmother commands from her place by the fire. Despite her 90 winters, her mind remains sharp as any blade. Tell them why their ancestors chose to follow Temujin. So your mother recites the familiar stories. Scattered clans preying on each other, families destroyed by feuds, the vision of unity that transformed weakness into world-conquering strength. But the young listen with polite boredom rather than inspiration. Ancient hardships seem like myths to those raised on imperial plenty. Your sister, now a master keeper of the secret history, adds contemporary observation. The Chinese chroniclers write that we're becoming civilized, as if that's improvement. They mean we're becoming like them, soft, scholarly, dependent on walls rather than mobility. She pauses, choosing words carefully. Perhaps they're right. How many here could survive a winter on the steppes with only traditional skills? How many prefer silk robes to proper dells? The religious fragmenting reflects deeper dissolution. Your nephew follows Buddhism with Chinese characteristics, spending more time in meditation than military training. Your niece married a Muslim merchant, her children learning Arabic before Mongolian. The Christian converts multiply, especially among those seeking administrative positions, where Western knowledge provides advantage. The spiritual unity under Tengri that bound your people fractures into competing loyalties that often transcend clan ties. The Khan understood that conquest requires adaptation, your uncle argues, defending the changes. We learn siegecraft from Chinese engineers, administration from Persian bureaucrats, trade from Arab merchants. Why shouldn't we learn their philosophies too? But your father counters sharply. Learning from enemies differs from becoming them. We adopted useful tools while maintaining Mongol hearts. Now we adopt foreign hearts and wonder why Mongol strength fades. A Yam messenger arrives with news that crystallizes everyone's fears. Civil war has erupted between Kublai and Arikbuk, brothers fighting for supreme power. The empire splits between those favoring Chinese-influenced administration and traditional steppe ways. Your family must choose sides in a conflict where both candidates claim to represent authentic Mongol values while proposing radically different futures. The Women's Council convenes to discuss this crisis. Your mother, as senior matriarch, guides discussion with wisdom earned through surviving previous conflicts.
Men will fight and die for their choices, she observes. We must ensure families survive regardless of which brother triumphs. Divide the sons, some to each faction. Maintain neutrality in our households while men commit outside. This isn't cowardice, but prudence that preserves bloodlines. Your family's response reflects the empire's broader fragmentation. Your eldest brother rides to support Kublai, believing modernization offers the only sustainable future. Your younger brother joins Arik Burke, convinced that returning to traditional ways might restore fading vitality. You remain uncommitted, tasked with protecting family interests regardless of outcome, a position that feels like wisdom, but tastes like cowardice. Heaven withdraws its mandate when people abandon heaven's ways, your grandmother declares during evening prayers. We sought to rule the world, but let the world rule us instead. Chinese luxury, Persian philosophy, Muslim theology, Christian mysteries, all dilute the pure spring of Tengri's wisdom. The empire dies, not from enemy swords, but from forgetting who we are. The economic evidence supports her spiritual diagnosis. Mongol-controlled trade routes still generate vast wealth, but little reaches traditional herding families. Urban centers grow fat, while steppes grow poor. Administrative positions offer more reward than military service. Young men, who should be perfecting archery instead, perfect calligraphy. The martial vigor that created the empire atrophies through lack of necessity and incentive. Your cousin returns from Kambalik, the city Kublai builds as his new capital, with tales that confirm transformation's scope. Mongol nobles dress like Chinese courtiers, carry fans instead of bows, debate poetry rather than tactics. They maintain ceremonial guard units that couldn't survive real combat. The grandsons of world conquerors have become performers in their own ancestral theatre. Yet not everything represents decay. The Pax Mongolica your people created enables unprecedented cultural exchange. Technologies spread rapidly across continents. Medical knowledge from Islamic scholars saves lives in Chinese cities. European innovations in metallurgy improve Mongol weapons. If the empire transforms from military to commercial power, perhaps that's evolution rather than degeneration. But such thoughts feel like betrayal of ancestral values. We face the eternal cycle, your father concludes one night after much contemplation. Hardship creates strength. Strength enables conquest. Conquest brings prosperity. Prosperity breeds softness. Softness invites hardship. We stand between prosperity and softness, perhaps too late to reverse course. His fatalism reflects growing consensus that the empire has peaked, that future holds managed decline rather than renewed expansion. The immediate crisis resolves with Kublai's victory, confirming the Chinese trajectory. But victory brings no unity. Different regions drift toward autonomy, paying lip service to central authority while pursuing local interests. The decimal system remains in theory, but fractures in practice. The yam continues functioning, but carries more commercial correspondence than strategic communication. Forms persist while essence evaporates. Your grandmother lives just long enough to see final confirmation of her prophecies. On her deathbed, she gathers the family for last wisdom. The empire will continue bearing Mongol name while losing Mongol spirit. Our descendants will rule as Chinese emperors, Persian sultans, Russian princes, wearing masks of conquered peoples until they forget the faces beneath. This isn't tragedy but nature. Every wave eventually returns to sea. Standing at her sky burial, watching eagles carry her essence back to Tengri, you understand you're witnessing more than one woman's passing. An entire way of life dissolves like morning mist, leaving only memories and monuments. The Mongol Empire will continue for generations in various forms, but the pure expression of steppe warrior culture that created it has already become history. Your son asks that evening whether the old stories are true. Did grandfather really conquer cities? Did great-grandfather ride from sunrise to sunset, building empire? You confirm their truth,
but see his skepticism. For him, these are myths like Bertocchino mating with the beautiful doe. The lived reality of world conquest has become inherited story, no more real than ancient legends. This psychological distance marks true ending more than any military defeat. The world tree that Genghis Khan planted has grown too vast for its roots. Branches spread across continents, but the trunk weakens. Some branches will flourish independently. Yuan dynasty in China, Ilkhanate in Persia, Golden Horde in Russia. But the organic unity that made them one tree, rather than forest, has already faded. You are the last generation to remember when all Mongols faced the same direction, fought for the same vision, answered to the same Khan. As night deepens, you perform the ancient rituals, offering meat to sky, milk to earth, prayers to ancestors. Your children watch with mild interest, learning forms they'll probably abandon. But you continue, knowing you're not just maintaining personal practice. The fire burns low as our tale concludes, casting dancing shadows that seem to hold echoes of the mighty empire we've explored together. You've ridden across frozen steppes, drawn bows alongside legendary warriors, witnessed the rise and inevitable transformation of history's most expansive land empire. Through it all, you've seen how heaven's mandate shifts like seasons, granting power to those who maintain cosmic order, withdrawing it when prosperity breeds complacency. Take a long, deep breath now. Feel how different the air tastes after journeying through that harsh and magnificent world. Your soft bed awaits, a luxury those hardy warriors could never imagine. As you drift towards sleep, perhaps you'll dream of endless grasslands beneath an eternal blue sky, of the thunder of 10,000 hooves, of an empire that emerged from nothing and returned to memory, leaving only the changed world as proof it ever existed. Remember the lessons whispered by wind across the steppes, that comfort can be its own danger, that every strength carries seeds of weakness, that even the mightiest human achievements are but temporary arrangements against time's patient erosion. The Mongols rode from the edges of history into its very center, reminding us that tomorrow's world shakers might emerge from places we least expect. Sleep now, modern inheritor of the world they shaped. Let their struggles and triumphs fade into the restful darkness, knowing you're connected across centuries to those fierce riders who proved that with sufficient will, discipline, and adaptability, even the impossible becomes inevitable. The empire is gone, but the human spirit that built it remains, waiting in each of us for hardship to awaken it. May your dreams carry you across those ancient steppes, and may you wake refreshed, perhaps seeing your comfortable life through eyes newly appreciative of both its blessings and its hidden vulnerabilities. The Mongol Empire's greatest lesson might be this, that every golden age carries within it the twilight of its own ending, but also the seeds of whatever comes next. Sleep well, and remember, you probably wouldn't last a day in the Mongol Empire, but that's precisely why their story matters. Sweet dreams.